Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto has a white Sharingan part 2. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by SNAKE 57575 and link in the description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 15. C ranks 2. I don't own Naruto. Naruto walked back to the carriage that he had been in with Hikari, only to see one of the doors just open. Naruto's blood ran cold as his Sharingan flared, and he ran to the carriage and ripped the door open to find to his horror his aunt was gone. Naruto closed his eyes and concentrated on his sensor abilities, searching out for his aunt. "Ha-chan," called the red-headed boy, son of their client, walking up to the carriage. "I'm sorry she was taken during the fight," said Naruto as the boy approached. "You have to find her," said the boy, looking terrified at Naruto. "I know, Itoko, cousin," said Naruto, whispering the last word before taking off in the direction he found his aunt's chakra signature. Naruto called Mikari as she and Kalina jumped after the blonde as he ran into the forest, both noting the shocked look on the face of their client's child. The two girls followed after the now sprinting blonde. Naruto wait up, called Kalina as she and Mikari tried to catch up to the blonde, who after a few moments came to a screeching halt in the trees, and just as Mikari and Kalina got close, they heard their friend and teammate let out an animalistic growl. "We know you have the Shadai Yuzukage's amulet, Hikari, give it to us, and you'll get back to your family alive," and in one piece said one of two men in front of Hikari. Both men bore crossed Kurigakure headbands, indicating their status as missing nin from Kiri. Both girls noted Naruto griping a necklace they hadn't seen before that Naruto wore. Just as Naruto reached for his swords, he felt a hand on his wrist. He looked to the side to see Kalina, who shook her head and pointed back to Mikari, who had pulled out a bow and notched two arrows and was pointing them towards the two missing nin. Naruto started flipping through Anbu hand seals that had been taught to all three so they could silently communicate. "I'll go around to there in case the arrows are deflected and so we can still get the drop on them," signed Naruto, getting a nod from Kalina and Mikari. Naruto then jumped to where he was pointing, jumping from tree to tree, avoiding being seen. Kalina then jumped around the clearing away from Mikari, so if Mikari didn't kill both missing nin with the arrows, she and Naruto could drop in and get the two nin. Once the two genin were in position, Mikari let her arrows fly free. The two arrows flew through the air straight towards the two missing nin. Naruto, Kalina and Hikari watched as the arrows flew towards the missing nin, only for them to turn as the arrows got close and were both deflected by kunai. "We got company," said one of the missing nin, looking around the clearing, looking for the source of the arrows, only for Naruto and Kalina to jump out of the trees. "Onisijin. Kuchius, demon restriction. Summon," called Kalina as she landed on the ground with her hands on the ground as a hole opened up in the ground and a clawed hand reached out and pulled itself out of the hole, and out crawled Zuexin, who looked to Kalina for his orders. "The redhead is our client, these two are our enemies," said Naruto to the demon, who looked over to the blonde to see black markings wrapping around his skin and a stick figure-like creature coming out of his shadow. Zuexin then looked to his mistress, who nodded to her demon, whose claws snapped out and glared at the two missing nin. "Oh, what do we have here? A Jigoku clan member and an Uchiha. Not many of you left, Blondie. I wonder what Konoha would pay for your return, or Kumo for your capture," said one of the two kidnappers. "That's it," growled Naruto, pulling out his second sword before throwing it up into the air, where what looked like an explosive tag went off and out of the katana. The other 100 rained down, sticking in the ground, in trees and in rocks all around the clearing Naruto, Kalina, Hikari and the two kidnappers were in. Once all of the blades landed, Naruto stabbed Iga into the ground. "Taint my blades with the shadows of the underworld," Iga roared Naruto, and like that his shadow spasmed and shot out, reaching all 100 katanas around the clearing before crawling up the blades and leaving them identical to Iga. "You kidnap my client, threaten her, then you threaten my teammate, you two are gone," growled Naruto as he shot forwards, grabbing one of his other blades as he shot forwards. The two missing nin sneered at Naruto and each went to pull a blade out of the ground, only for both of their hands to get cut when they tried to touch the blades. "What the hell?" questioned one of the two nin, just as Naruto jumped into the air above the two nin, holding both his blades in a backhanded grip as he fell towards the two nin. The two former Kiri nin jumped to the side to avoid him, however, Naruto quickly Kawarimi-ed with a katana stuck in the ground near where one of the two nin landed, and with one single swift motion the blonde spun and sliced an inch deep into the nin's back. "Brother," called the other nin as the one Naruto cut fell to the ground. "You forget he's not alone," came the voice of Zuexin from above the second brother as the demon came down, slashing his front with the large claws the demon possessed. Naruto flipped over himself and slammed his foot into the back of the slashed ex-Kiri nin, who was trying to push himself to his knees, only to be forced to the ground as Naruto's foot was planted firmly in his back. The Kiri nin himself decided to Kawarimi with one of Naruto's swords, landing nearby his brother. "We need to get out of here," said the one Naruto had beaten, getting a nod from the other. "This is not over, Hikari, we will get what we came for," said the brother, just as the two of them vanished in twin swirls of water. Naruto glared at where they were for a minute longer before he looked away, and the katanas that had been sealed returned to their normal appearance. Page Bunshin no Jutsu Shadow Clone Jutsu, called Naruto, creating a clone to collect the katanas and reseal them. He quickly then rushed over to Hikari, who was sitting calmly on a rock. "Are you okay, Hikari Oppa?" questioned Naruto as he came to a halt in front of his aunt, who nodded to him. "Yes Naruto, I'm fine, it's really lucky I did give you that necklace earlier," said Hikari. "What necklace?" questioned Kalina, stepping up to the two of them. "This one," said Naruto, pulling the gemstone out of his shirt and showing it to his friend. "And why are you calling our client Oba?" questioned Mikari, dropping from the trees beside them. "I'm his aunt," said Hikari, completely trusting the two girls in the clearing. If Naruto trusted them, which she could see he did, then so did she. Both girls' eyes widened at the statement. "So what's so important about the necklace?" questioned Kalina, filing away the information about Naruto's aunt for later. "It belonged to the Shadai Uzukage and is believed to have increased his control of Suiton, Raiten and Futen to levels never seen before, but it has never fully been concluded what the gem did, if anything," said Hikari. "Well, we should really get back," said Naruto, getting a nod from his teammates and aunt. Naruto knelt down in front of his aunt. "This way we'll be back quicker," said Naruto, spotting the confused look on Hikari's face. She then nodded and hopped onto Naruto's back, and with that the three ninjas set on their way back to the convoy. Once the four people made it back to the convoy, Hikari hopped off Naruto's back, only to be snatched into a hug by her husband and son. "Alright people, as touching as this is, we need to move just so we don't get ambushed," said Anko, getting a nod from the ninja and an okay from the clients. But that the two male clients walked back towards their carts, while Hikari walked to her carriage with Naruto following behind her. Once Hikari and Naruto were in the woman's carriage, and the two men were atop the carts, the convoy once more set off. Several hours later, the convoy had stopped for the night, everyone having set up their tents. Everyone sat around the fire as the sun began to fall below the horizon. Well, all bar Naruto, who was sitting on top of a branch of a nearby tree, one of his legs hanging lazily off the side as he watched out for threats. Naruto pulled out a scroll from his pocket, unfurling it on his lap. It revealed a sealing matrix. Naruto put his hand over before channeling chakra into the Fuinjutsu matrix. His guitar appeared from the matrix. Everyone who sat around the fire turned to Naruto when they heard something being unsealed. Anko, Kurenai, Tenten, Kalina and Mikari just smiled when they saw his guitar. "You can play the guitar, Naruto-kun?" questioned Hikari, getting a nod from the blonde boy, who then began to play. "Good to be alive, Skillet. I don't own this either, but all you got are broken dreams. Just need a second chance. And everything you want to be, that's taken from your hands. We hold on to each other. All we have is all we need. Cause one way or another, we always make it, you and me. This life could almost kill ya when you're trying to survive. It's good to be here with ya. And it's good to be alive. It's good to be alive. I was lost and I was gone. I was almost dead inside. You and me against the world. It's a beautiful night. It's good to be alive. 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 Driving down this highway, soaking up the sun. 'Odd miles to go before we get home, and the journey's just begun. We hold on to each other. You're everything I need. You feel like forever. You're the second chance for me. This life could almost kill ya when you're trying to survive. It's good to be here with ya, and it's good to be alive. It's good to be alive. I was lost and I was gone. I was almost dead inside. You and me against the world. It's a beautiful night. It's good to be alive. It's a beautiful night. Yeah, it's alright. It's good to be alive. This life could almost kill ya when you're trying to survive. It's good to be here with ya. It's good to be alive. 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 And it's good to be alive. It's good to be alive. I was lost and I was gone. I was almost dead inside. You and me against the world. It's a beautiful night. It's good to be alive. It's a beautiful night. Yeah, it's alright. It's good to be alive, sung Naruto as the others just sat and listened. Once the blonde finished, his eyes were closed as he quickly sealed away his guitar once more. 477. Chapter 16. C ranks 3. I don't own Naruto. Naruto sat next to his aunt in the carriage. It had been a week since the first bandit attack, where the pair of Kiri missing nin kidnapped Hikari, and since then there had been several more attacks by bandits, but that was all, and they were handled very quickly. However, as the two Uzumaki sat in the carriage, Naruto suddenly stood up just as the carriage came to a stop. The blonde opened the door as he pulled Iga off. "Naruto, what are you doing?" began Kurenai. "These two are mine," growled Naruto, making the Jonin jump. She had never heard her friend speak like that. Before any arguments could be made, Naruto flicked Iga into the air above his head and quickly flipped through hand signs. "Warwick no Jutsu, sexy jutsu," called Naruto just as Iga fell back towards the Naruto's hand. Narumi glared at the two Kirinin, her Sharingan flaring to life as Narumi flicked her hand to the side, letting a Tessin slip out of the sleeve straight into her hand as Iga landed nicely in her opposite hand. Teammate watched in awe as a stick figure-like creature arose out of Narumi's shadow, like markings wrapped around the girl's skin, that is until bandits began to attack the group and they had to defend themselves. "Not you again," growled one of the Kirinin. "What the hell is with the hinge?" questioned the other. Narumi chose not to speak as she and her shadow puppet charged forwards, the girl herself going after one of the nin, while the shadow with its claw-like fingers went after the other. Narumi swung her katana down on her target only for him to bring up a kunai to block it. Futen Kazakiri no Jutsu, wind-style wind cutter jutsu, called Narumi flicking her tessen, sending a wave of wind towards the Kiri-nin. Narumi was then forced to jump as the second Kiri-nin jumped at her. However, while in the air, the second nin's own shadow launched up at him, trying to impale him, however he jumped out of the was just in time. Itsuga Tenshim, Moonfang Heaven Piercer, called Narumi as she landed on the ground, flicking her katana down from overhead, letting out a large shockwave of blue chakra. As the two Kiri-nin jumped back to avoid being hit by the wave, a long shadow blade burst from between Narumi's feet, flying towards both men, hoping to hit either of them. But both of them jumped to the side however, just when they felt they were safe from the shadows, the long shadow blade sprouted more shorter shadow blades off the body of the main one. However, the Kiri-nin did manage to maneuver in such a way that none of the hits were in lethal spots. Narumi once more flicked Iga up into the air and quickly did a short chain of one-handed hand signs. Teiten Kakik no Jutsu, fire-style fireball jutsu, called Narumi spitting out a large fireball that flew out towards the two Kiri-nin, who jumped to the side to avoid the attack before flipping through their own hand signs. Suiton Tependama, water-style gunshot, called one of the two ninja sending a large ball of water at Narumi. Suiton Suriken no Jutsu, water-style water dragon jutsu, called the other ninja launching a water dragon at Narumi. Raiten Jibashi, lighting-style electromagnetic murder, called Narumi sending two waves of electricity out from her hands that flew and hit both water techniques, making the water ball become unstable before bursting into a puddle of water, while the dragon absorbed the lighting as it flew at Narumi, who quickly Kawarimi-ed with a nearby log, letting the wood get destroyed. Narumi, while she had time, quickly bit her thumb drawing blood before she ran the bloody digit along the summoning tattoo on her arm, before slamming her hand on the ground, making a sealing matrix appear on the ground, and from the matrix, poured a lot of smoke before it parted, revealing Laswara and Razor. "Naruto?" questioned the Razorback looking strangely at Narumi. "Yep, me under a hinge look, I need a hand," said Narumi getting a nod from the two Razorbacks. Narumi then jumped out from behind the tree, the two creatures following her, before glaring down the two Kiri-nin. Narumi then spotted her falling katana. She once more Kawarimi-ed with the splinters of the log from before, grabbing her blade and then swinging around and blocking a strike that was sent her way by one of the nin. As he pushed harder against Narumi's blade, the redhead let herself fall back into her shadow, which quickly flicked over to Laswara's shadow. Narumi slowly rose out of the shadow of her summon, blocking a strike directed towards the creature's head from the second nin. Razor from behind Narumi and Laswara jumped up and over the two of them, swiping at the Kiri-nin's face with his sharpened claws. The man was hit in the nose and barley over his eyes. The nin screamed in pain as he jumped back, covering his eye. "You little bastard," roared the other nin, pulling out a kunai and charging at Narumi, who ran at the man before sliding under the man's wild kunai strike, slipping into the man's guard and going to slice at his face with her tessen. The man jumped back just far enough to get out of Narumi's fan's range. However, before the redhead could do anything else, she found herself being launched forward courtesy of a kick in the back from Razor's victim. Narumi was pushed forwards, launched into a nearby tree. The redhead, however, flipped midair and landed feet first against the trunk of the tree. Kicking off the tree, Narumi flew forwards, landing in front of the unscathed Kiri-nin. She attempted the slice at the man's neck with her folded up tessen, keyword attempted. The man leaned back just in time to avoid the slice, and at the same time he kicked Narumi in the chin, knocking her up into the air. Before the other nin jumped in and kicked Narumi backwards into a tree, Narumi's back hit the tree, making the girl's back arch in unnatural ways. Narumi fell down the tree, her head down, her hair cloaking her eyes in shadows. However, what nobody noticed until now was that under Narumi's shirt, a glow was pulsing. As the two Kiri-nin got closer to find out what it was, Narumi stood up, her hair still shadowing her face, and before the two Kiri-nin could say anything, Narumi flashed Dragot hand signs. Iofuten Hop Muinzu, gale-style northern winds, called Narumi, almost bringing her hands together into a clap, stopping just short as gale force winds followed her hands, slamming both Kiri-nin together as the two men collided. Narumi then began flipping through hand signs once more. Rantan Smdaina Kaminari, storm-style grand thunder, called Narumi, her left hand going up into the air, and before a comment could be made, the girl's limb fell and pointed towards the two Kiri-nin, and lightning shot from the sky down and hit both of the men, before more bolts followed the first. After about 5 bolts fell the sky, Narumi fell down unconscious, and a little over 5 bolts of lightning later, both Kiri-nin fell down dead. Some time later, Narumi groaned as she sat up. Looking around, she saw she was back in Hikari's carriage with her aunt sitting opposite her. "Oba-san?" questioned Naruto, surprising the woman who was reading a book. "Oh, Naruto-kun," began Hikari, interrupted by Narumi holding a hand up. "When I'm like this I go by Narumi, not Naruto," said Narumi, getting a raised eyebrow from Hikari. Well, this is a solid transformation technique, so when I'm like this I am a girl, and it feels weird to have people call me Naruto, so I go by Narumi, said the girl, shocking Hikari. And you can just transform from male to female at a whim? Questioned Hikari, getting a nod from Narumi. Pretty much yeah, said the nodding Narumi. Doesn't it feel strange? Questioned Hikari. Well, at first I will admit it was a bit strange, but that was several years ago now, said Narumi with a smile. How long can you be like that? Questioned Hikari. Well, I don't know, I think if I wanted it could be permanent. I mean, I've spent a week constantly like this to get used to being a girl when I first created the jutsu, and it can't be dispelled by normal means, said Narumi. Why did you even create it? Asked Hikari. I created it when I learned of the Kunoichi and Shinobi style split. I wanted to learn all I could from my clans, said Narumi with a soft smile. Hikari nodded at her now niece. The two sat in silence for a moment. The silence was broken by Hikari. Is your hair always like that when you are like this? Questioned Hikari, not quite sure how to describe Narumi. The girl herself nodded as an answer to the question. Hikari looked at Narumi and Hamed. Why, is there something wrong with my hair? Questioned Narumi, looking at her hair, pulling her ponytail over her shoulder. Not wrong, that style just doesn't suit you, said Hikari, scratching her chin before it hit her, and she snapped her fingers. Come here, Narumi-chan, let me see if I can fix that hair, said Hikari, motioning for Narumi to sit on the floor of the carriage just in front of her. Narumi nodded and took a seat as Hikari got to work. You have such beautiful hair, said Hikari as she ran her hands through the blood-red hair of Narumi. Thanks, I tried to make it like Kachan's hair, said Narumi as her eyes lulled shut while her aunt fiddled with her hair. Hikari and Narumi sat in silence as the older woman styled the younger's hair. After what felt like an hour because it was so relaxing for the young redhead, Hikari spoke up again. And finished, said the woman, looking down at the hairstyle with a smile on her face. Narumi's charcoal black eyes fluttered open lazily before a mirror came into her view. It's lovely, Oba-san, said Narumi, turning her head to the side to get a look at her new hairstyle. Her hair was pulled into a loose-ish off-center bun at the back of her head. The bun was about ear-high on the right side of the girl's head, and to Narumi's surprise, holding the bun tight was a pair of senbon needles. Narumi raised an eyebrow when she saw that. Hey, just because I don't want to be a kunoichi doesn't mean I don't know how to defend myself. Tusan made damn sure of that, so I always have senbon on me, so sue me, declared the woman. Narumi let out a giggle and smiled, shaking her head. 2 days later, land of hot water. The trade convoy had made it to their destination with no more serious incidents, Narumi remaining as she was for the remainder of the journey, as she felt more connected to Hikari as Narumi than Naruto. Are you sure you don't want to come back to Konoha? The compound is plenty big enough for you and your family as well, Oba-chan, said Narumi, looking up at Hikari. No, it's not the right time right now, Narumi-chan, maybe one day, but today isn't that day, said Hikari. Okay, but the compound's gates will always be open for you, said Narumi with a sad smile. Don't be sad, Narumi-chan, we will see you again, declared Hikari. Narumi wiped the forming tears from her eyes and nodded. I'm going to hold you to that, declared Narumi, hugging her aunt one more time. Chapter 17. C ranks IV. I don't own Naruto. The 3 Konoha teams were tree-hopping their way back to Konoha. They had been traveling for about an hour now away from the land of hot water. Anko, who was in the lead, stopped, making everyone else stop. What is it, Anko-sensei? Questioned Naruto, who stood just behind the woman who held her arm out as a messenger hawk flew down and landed on the outstretched limb. Anko-chan? Questioned Kurenai, hopping up beside a friend who rolled up a scroll she had been reading. Alright, you lot, change of plans, said Anko, turning around facing the other 2 jonin, along with the 9 genin. What do you mean, youthful Anko-san? Questioned Guy. It seems Kakashi got his dumb ass in trouble. Hokage-sama said he and his team took a C-rank mission, and Kakashi has requested backup, and given we're closest to Land of Waves, Hokage-sama has decided to send all of us to back up Kakashi, declared Anko, before Anko changed her direction of travel, and the whole lot of them headed towards the ocean. Several hours later, the 3 teams had all just crossed the water into the Land of Waves. The genin, incapable of walking across by themselves, got a piggyback by a Naruto clone, and now all 12 ninja were on a misty shoreline, with the sounds of a battle not too far off in the distance. With a quick nod, Anko, followed by her team, then Kurenai, and her team followed finally by Guy's team, quickly took off towards the sounds. Within several moments, all 12 ninja burst into a clearing just in time to see 2 people vanish in a swirl of leaves. Anko, Guy, Kurenai, you 3 are my backup? Questioned Kakashi, turning to face the 3 jonin. Yes, but Hokage-sama has requested I take over leadership, said Anko, pulling out a scroll and lobbing it to Kakashi, who caught the scroll before promptly falling flat on his face. Anko raised an eyebrow before walking over to the downed jonin and checked for a pulse. It's chakra exhaustion, sensei, said Naruto before Anko even got to Kakashi. Okay, then you brats are in charge of carrying your sensei, said Anko, pointing to Kakashi's team, from which the 2 dark-haired pale-skinned boys walked forwards and each took one of Kakashi's arms and threw it over their shoulders. Anko then turned to the client. Your house nearby? Questioned Anko. Yeah, just on the other side of town, said the man, nodding. Anko nodded to him and he began to lead them towards his home. It only took about 20 minutes to get to the man's home. Walking inside, they were greeted by a blue-haired woman introduced to the ninja as Tsunami. "I'm sorry, Ninja Sans, but there is no way that we will be able to house you all," said Tsunami sheepishly. "That's no problem, we only need for you to accommodate our comrade here," said Anko, gesturing to the unconscious Kakashi. "The rest of us will stay in the woods nearby," said Anko, getting a nod from Tsunami, who led the two conscious males of Team 7 away to find a place for Kakashi. Once he was safe, the rest of the ninja left the house for a while to set up their tents. "Alright everyone, I think we need to set up a schedule for who's guarding Tazuna at the bridge, who's guarding Tsunami and who's training," declared Anko. "A most excellent idea, Anko-sen," said Guy. "Wait, you said protecting Tazuna, protecting Tsunami and training, what about relaxing? Surely with all of this we'd need time to wind down." Sakura, Naruto, Kalina, Mikari, Anko, Kurenai and Tenten had to resist the urge to face palm. "Early the relaxing is the guard duty," declared Anko, getting a shocked look from Sakura. "Now I think to start with you will all spar so we can see who needs the most work in the training," said Anko. "Who's first?" questioned Kurenai. "Well, let's start with I don't know Kalina and Pinky," said Anko. "What, me?" questioned Sakura, pointing to herself. "Well, I don't see anyone else fitting that description," Pinky taunted Kalina, stepping forwards. "Whoa girl, not so close to the camp," said Anko. Kalina nodded to her sensei before the whole group walked into a second nearby clearing where Kalina and Sakura stepped forwards, Sakura with a confident look on her face while Kalina's features held a bored expression. "You're going down now, Kalina," declared Sakura. Kalina simply yawned, looking down at her fingernails. "Alright, ready you two?" questioned Anko, looking between her student and Kakashi's, both of whom nodded. "Okay then, begin," said Anko. Kalina stood still, arms crossed, partially leaning backwards. Sakura however charged forwards with her fist cocked back. "I'll end this in one punch," declared the pink-haired girl as she ran at Kalina, who simply moved to the side before slamming her knee into the pink-haired girl's gut, making her drop to the ground unconscious. "Well, that was anticlimactic," said Anko, kicking the downed girl to try and rouse her, with no luck. "Sai, who's next?" questioned Anko. "I would like to see Naruto-kun's flames of youth clash with those of one of my students," said Guy. "Alright, perhaps Naruto should face Mr. Wide-Eyed and Brooding over there," said Anko, pointing to Guy's Hyuga student. "There would be no point any match between me and Uzumaki-sen, I would be fated to win," declared Niji arrogantly. "Well then, Fate Boy, all the more point," declared Naruto, pushing off the tree he had been leaning on and walking to the center of the clearing. Niji walked up and stood opposite him. "You're going to lose," declared Niji as his Byakugan flared to life. "You keep telling yourself that," declared Naruto, pulling both his swords off his back, letting his own Dojutsu flare to life. "Alright, you two begin," called Anko. Niji launched from his position at Naruto, who stood there, and let shadows wrap around him, leaving black markings on his face. Just as Niji drew close enough to throw a strike, a shadow claw lunged out of Naruto's shadow up at Niji, forcing the genin back. "You all might want to stand back for this," declared Naruto, looking at the spectators who all nodded and stepped back several meters before Naruto tossed his second katana up into the air. "Niji, you have no idea what you have gotten yourself into," declared Naruto as he charged forwards, both hands on Iga, channeling his chakra into the blade which he held low. In the air above them, Naruto's second katana exploded, sending the other blades raining down on the two ninja. As the first one hit the ground, Naruto swung Iga up at Niji. "Itsuga Tenshim, Moon Fang Heaven Piercer," called Naruto, sending a shockwave of chakra out at Niji, who was launched back and into the air from the attack. As Niji sailed through the air, katanas rained down on the clearing, and unfortunately for Niji, flying backwards in the air, he was helpless as the blades rained down. However, he was lucky enough that only 7 fell down on him, all of them glancing off, cutting only at most half an inch deep before they fell to the ground. Unfortunately for Niji, Naruto wasn't done. The blonde charged forwards once more. Catching one of the falling blades in his free hand, Naruto leapt forward, spinning sideways, bringing his unnamed blade down on Niji, who had only just landed, slicing his chest about an inch deep from his shoulder to his hip before spinning around and with Iga giving the arrogant Hyuga a matching scar from his other shoulder to hip, leaving a X-shaped scar on the genin's chest as blood poured out of the wound. "Alright, that's enough," said Anko, causing Naruto to stand down while Guy, Hinata, Lee and Tenten rushed to Niji's side. Naruto walked over to Niji before pulling out a scroll from his back pocket and laying it on the ground. The blonde then unfurled it to reveal several sealing matrices. Naruto then pumped chakra into one, unsealing the contents, or at least part of them, as 2 pieces of paper now sat atop the sealing matrix. Naruto put the pieces of paper on his palms before channeling a large burst of chakra to his palms, where the chakra formed a shell around his hands. The chakra after a moment turned a dull green. Naruto then knelt next to Niji before running his green glowing hands over the cuts on Niji. The genin watched in wonder as the cuts began to stitch themselves shut. "I didn't know you knew medical ninjutsu," Naruto said. Kurenai. I'm using conversion seals to convert my normal chakra into medical chakra, declared Naruto as he finished healing Niji's wounds. Who's next? Questioned Anko. I want to fight Blondie, declared Sasuke stepping forwards. Anko looked over at Naruto, who rolled his eyes and nodded. Alright, you two ready? Questioned Anko, getting a nod from Naruto and a HN from Sasuke. Then go, ordered Anko. Paint my blades with the shadows of the underworld, Iga called Naruto, stabbing his blade into the ground, his shadow shooting out and connecting to all of the other katanas in the clearing, before engulfing them in shadows, after which the shadows fell away, revealing the blades had turned into Iga-like blades. Sasuke then went to grab one of the blades only for his hand to phase through the hilt. What the hell? Questioned Sasuke, trying again only for the results to remain the same. Iga and the blade she taints only respond to me, declared Naruto with a grin as he ran forwards picking up a second blade. Sasuke leapt back, pulling out a pair of kunai ready to block the strikes the blonde sent his way. However, to Sasuke's surprise, Naruto lobbed his second blade at Sasuke. The black-haired boy barely dodged out of the way before Naruto appeared where his thrown blade had been mid-swing. Sasuke ducked under the slice before flipping backwards as Naruto landed on the ground. Kakek no Jutsu, Fire-style Fireball Jutsu, called Naruto the second his foot touched a forest floor, sending out a fireball that flew at Sasuke, whose eyes widened and once more was forced to jump out of the way. Suiton Tepdama, water-style gunshot, called Naruto, launching 3 high-pressure water shots at his kinsman. The black-haired Uchiha once more was forced to dodge an attack from Naruto, who before he could blink was upon him, with a pair of blades, both being brought down on his head. Sasuke quickly brought up his kunai to block the attacks, only for the Naruto in front of him to burst into smoke and the Uchiha to be punted through the air, courtesy of the real Naruto, who appeared behind Sasuke, who was now barely standing. Naruto had 2 swords in his hands. Naruto ran at Sasuke before slamming one of the blades into Sasuke, but not so it would cut, not yet anyway, the sword just stuck where Naruto placed it. Naruto quickly substituted with another blade before picking up another pair which he charged forwards and placed on Sasuke, bringing the total up to 3. Naruto then in a flash doubled the total and made it 6 with another 3 well-placed blades, and this kept going until there was 15, then he jumped back and with his original blade, he slammed the katana blade down into the hilt of one of the many hilts on the blades, and it was at this point everyone realized the blades were arranged in such a way that when one was hit, it would hit the next, which would hit the next, and so on until it looped around to the last one hitting the first one and starting all over again. So for the next 20 seconds, Sasuke looked like he was having a seizure, then the blades lost their momentum and fell to the floor, and not a second later so did Sasuke. Chapter 18. C ranks v. I don't own Naruto. After more friendly spars, it was decided that the groups would consist of Sakura, Hinata and Kiba on permanent training. Shino, Sai and Lee would be the first group to guard Tazuna, Kalina, Tenten and Makari, the first guarding Tsunami and Inari, while Naruto, Niji and Sasuke would be the first group training on rotation. The 3 conscious Jonin would follow one group, and the Jonin of the rotational training would cover the permanent training group until such a point that Kakashi was awake and well enough to take over. Anko chose to be the one in charge of Naruto, Sasuke and Niji. Guy had picked the trio with his prize genin, so he was with Shino, Sai and Lee, which left Kurenai with Kalina, Tenten and Makari. Not that she minded all that much, it was now time for the 2 teams to set off for their guard duty, leaving Anko, Naruto, Niji, Sasuke, Hinata, Kiba and Sakura standing in the clearing chosen for training. Naruto looked around idly, noting that Sasuke was glaring at him, brooding as was Sakura, but to his surprise, it looked like Niji was deep in thought, but all of that was interrupted by Anko speaking up. Alright you lot, I got a rundown on your skills from your sensei, so I know what to be teaching you, said Anko before pointing to Sakura, Sasuke, Hinata and Kiba. You 4 are working on the tree climbing exercise, said Anko walking over to a tree. But Anko sensei we already can know how to climb trees, stuttered Hinata. Well, with this exercise you will learn to adhere to trees with your chakra, said Anko, demonstrating by walking up a nearby tree, shocking Kiba, Sakura, Hinata and Sasuke. Once she was hanging by her feet from the lowest branch, she flicked 4 kunai at the 4 genin hitting the ground just in front of their feet. Use those to mark your progress. I'm only going to give you this one tip: too much chakra and you will be blown off the tree, and too little and you won't stick, declared Anko, dropping from the tree, landing on her feet before walking over to the other 2 genin. What are those losers going to be doing? Snidely asked Sakura, getting a glare from Niji and Anko. Naruto just rolled his eyes. Actually, given these 2 have already mastered the tree climbing, Niji here gets to do the water walking while I work with Naruto, declared Anko. What? I am an elite, and Uchiha, I deserve private training, not being stuck with this peasant work, declared Sasuke proudly. I'm an Uchiha too, Dumbus, and I have already mastered both the tree climbing and water walking, which is why Anko sensei is working with me, said Naruto. But the Gaki said, now get to work, Uchiha, or do I need to give you some motivation? Questioned Anko, glaring at Sasuke, letting a snake slither out of her sleeve for emphasis. Sasuke decided wisely to shut up and get started. "I tells me you have been working on the water walking for a while now, so you know what to do," said Anko, turning to Niji, who nodded and walked to a nearby stream to get started. "Sensei, I finished the exercise, can I take a break?" called out Sakura, who was sitting on the first branch of the tree giggling happily to herself. "Hell no, you get to run up and down that tree until you drop," declared Anko, getting a shocked look from the pink-haired genin before a kunai grazed her cheek. "At moving or else next time I won't miss," declared Anko, an evil look in her eyes, and with that Sakura got right back to running up and down the tree. Anko turned back to Naruto. "Alright Gaki, what are you doing? I know your control is as good as it's going to get for now, so," said Anko, trailing off, getting the feeling Naruto got what she meant. "If I can, would I be allowed to read the scrolls Hikari gave me?" questioned Naruto, quietly hoping that none of the other genin caught the conversation. Anko nodded to the blonde-haired genin, who walked over to a tree not being climbed and sat against it and unfurled the first scroll. Anko meanwhile jumped up into a nearby tree, sitting on a branch that gave her a clear view of all of the genin. She did enjoy watching Kiba and Sasuke both get blown of the trees, but most of the time her eyes were on her own student. Several hours later, the first day of training guard duty passed without problems, and all the ninja, including a now upright and on crutches Kakashi, were in the clearing they had claimed. While the Jonin discussed the matter at hand, the genin had split up into their own social circles. Sakura was lying on the ground in the middle of the clearing, having crashed the second she reached the clearing. Kiba, Shino and Hinata sat off to the side, occasionally glancing around. Sai sat against a tree with a book in his hand drawing something. Sasuke was sitting against a tree brooding, occasionally glaring at the back of Naruto, who stood with Mikari, Kalina, Tenten, Lee and surprisingly Niji, who had been acting less arrogant since Naruto beat him so easily. Lee had asked to spar with Naruto, only for the blonde to say it wasn't a good idea with the fact that they were on guard duty or training for the next few days, but it agreed once back in Konoha the two would spar. "Alright brats, listen up," called Anko, making all of the genin turn to the woman, topping all conversations. "New plan: tomorrow we split back up into regular teams and continue what we did today, but there will be a fourth thing happening until the objective is complete," said Anko. "What objective, Anko?" questioned Tenten. "Finding Gato's base of operations," said Anko. "So which teams are doing what, Anko-sensei?" questioned Niji. "Kurenai's team, you guys are training again. Guy's team, you guys got Tazuna guard duty. Kakashi's team is protecting Inari and Tsunami, and my team we're looking for Gato," declared Anko. The next morning, Naruto, Anko, Kalina and Mikari stood just outside their base camp, ready to get to work. "So Anko-sensei, what's the plan?" questioned Naruto. "First you make as many clones as you can," said Anko. Naruto nodded. "Page Bunshin no Jutsu, Shadow Clone Jutsu," called Naruto, creating several hundred clones who stood at the ready awaiting orders. "Alright, here's the deal, we're all splitting into groups of 2. Naruto, you're with me, Mikari, Kalina, you two can either go with a clone or each other," said Anko. Two said girls looked at each other before turning to Anko. "Together," declared Kalina, getting a nod from Anko. "Okay then, now everyone is to head out in different direction and search for Gato's base. If you find it, head back to base camp and wait there for the rest of us. If not, return anyway once the sun starts to set," declared Anko. She got a nod from her 2 female genin and clones of her male genin, who all scattered in groups of 2. Naruto, who had watched the process, turned back to Anko only to see her gone. "So which way are we going, Naruto-kun?" whispered Anko, purring out his name before licking his ear as she wrapped her arms around him. "Why are you asking me, sensei? From what I hear in the village you go both ways," retorted Naruto, making the woman blush. "Why don't you and I spend a night together so you can find out for yourself?" returned Anko. Now it was Naruto's turn to go bright red. Seeing her student turn bright red, Anko relented and let go of Naruto. "So which way?" asked Anko, looking at Naruto, who closed his eyes for a moment before they snapped open before pointing off in a seemingly random direction. Anko nodded and the two took off in that direction. 5 minutes later. "So you think he's a little cocky?" questioned Anko, looking down at was almost certainly Gato's hideout. "Either that or just stupid," replied Naruto before activating his Sharingan. "No barriers or anything," said Naruto, his eyes revealing no barriers around the compound that sat at the bottom of a clearing. The stupid part: all around the walls of the compound were trees that were all taller than the wall. "So do we head back or do we scout it out?" questioned Naruto, casting his gaze over to his sensei. Anko adopted a thoughtful expression. "How many bandits do you sense inside?" questioned Anko. Naruto closed his eyes and concentrated. "About 250 over 5 levels," said Naruto. Anko once more looked to be deep in thought before nodding to Naruto. "Henge into a bandit we'll drop in just to make sure there's nothing too dangerous," said Anko. Naruto nodded and flipped thought hand signs. "Henge no Jutsu, transformation jutsu," called Naruto and Anko at the same time, and the two were engulfed in clouds of smoke. Once the smoke cleared, the two looked like a pair of regular bandits. The duo tree hopped over the roof of the building, dropping down onto the roof of the building. Naruto pried a vent guard off, and the two disguised ninja climbed into the air vent. Crawling along inside the vent, Naruto, who was in the lead, had his sensing ability at its widest range. As the two started crawling downwards, they saw light flood the vent. Naruto crawled along the metal box they were in until he was above the vent. Naruto stopped for a moment. "Would you stop?" questioned Anko quietly. "Guards close by," whispered Naruto. Once he felt them leave the area, the disguised blonde kicked the vent, breaking it before dropping into the hallway. He quickly nodded to Anko, who dropped down after him. However, the second Anko's feet touched the floor, she was engulfed in smoke, and an alarm went off in the hallway. Naruto could feel the bandits coming back, and he saw the smoke around Anko clear, revealing the woman herself. "I'm sorry about this, Anko-chan, play along," said the still disguised Naruto before he kneed Anko in the gut, making her double over in pain, clutching her stomach. Naruto then grabbed her by the hair and slammed her head into the ground. "What's going on here?" questioned a voice from the end of the hallway. "I caught this bitch breaking in through the vent," said Naruto, pulling Anko up by her hair. "Good job, boss man is gonna want to see you in her," said the man, nodding his head to Anko. Naruto nodded, pulling Anko up before pulling out a length of rope and tying her hands up before turning to the other bandit who was looking at him funny. "What?" questioned Naruto. "I haven't seen you round here before," said the man. "Oh yeah, I'm new, name's Blaze," said Blaze. "Oh right, well you probably don't know where bossman is, follow me," said the bandit. Naruto nodded and followed the bandit through the halls until they came to a large set of double doors. The bandit nodded to the doors. Naruto pushed them open before pushing Anko in. "What is it?" screamed a midget in a tux behind a desk. Bossman, I found this chick breaking in through the vents," said Naruto, pointing to Anko. "Oh, good job my friend, please come in," said the man before he nodded to two men beside him who came forwards and took Anko by the arms. She looked scared as the two men took her away. "So what's gonna happen to her?" questioned Naruto before Anko had left the room. "She'll be tortured for whatever she knows, then broken in and sold off," said Gato nonchalantly. Naruto nodded as Anko was taken out of the room. 477. Chapter 19. C ranks Vi. "I don't own Naruto." Polina passed back and forth while Makari looked on in equal worry as the two waited for Naruto and Anko to return from their mission. "What could be keeping them?" questioned Kalina, looking at her friend. "I don't know, Kalina," said Makari, looking up at her worried friend. "What could be keeping who?" asked Naruto as he and Anko walked into the clearing, both of them covered in blood, none of which looked to be their own, thankfully. Kalina ran over to her teammate and Sensei, hugging them both. "Thank Kami, you two are alright, but what took so long?" questioned Kalina, looking at Naruto and Anko. "Well, flashback." Anko sat on the ground, her arms chained to a wall above her head. She wasn't sure how long it had been since her capture, but they had sent in their best interrogator, who could do nothing to make Anko talk. However, she was having a problem escaping, as she couldn't mold her chakra, at least, not since she had been put in the shackles. Suddenly the door opened and a man stepped in. Anko had to stop her plotting as she looked up at the man who closed the door behind him. "Naruto?" questioned the purple-haired Jonin, looking up at the man who simply nodded. "What's going on, Naruto?" questioned Anko. Naruto walked forwards as he reached for Anko's shackles. "Okay, so there's lots of bandits around. Gato is just as cocky as we thought, but that's kind of justified," said Naruto, interrupted by Anko. "Why is that?" questioned Anko. "This building is a former Uzumaki political embassy, and as such it has many defenses against ninja, hence why your henge was dispelled." "Well, mine wasn't, as I am Uzumaki," said Naruto. "Is that why I can't mold my chakra? These shackles are chakra suppressants?" questioned the Jonin sensei, getting a nod from her student, who managed to break said shackles. Anko rubbed her somewhat bruised wrists before turning to her student. "So what's the plan?" questioned Anko. "Well, unfortunately you're limited to Taijutsu and Gyukujutsu, as anything you use that needs chakra your chakra will scramble, making it fail," said Naruto, getting a nod from Anko. "So I'll get up and attack Gato, and once you hear shit start to go down, that's your cue to break out and start wasting these goons," declared Naruto. Anko nodded. It sounded like a sound plan. Naruto stood and walked out the door, still under his henge, and walked over to the guard and held out the keys to Anko's cell. The guard went to take them only for Naruto to slice the man's throat with Iga. Before the second guard could so much as move, a stick figure-like construct shot out of Naruto's shadow, lunging forwards and impaling the man. Once the man stopped moving, the shadow dissipated and the body fell to the ground. Before the body had even touched the ground, Naruto was already past it and moving upstairs to the first floor. As Naruto turned the corner to head up the stairs, he turned into a hallway with 10 bandits, all standing somewhere along the hall. Naruto dropped his henge, cloaking himself in a cloud of smoke, drawing the attention of the bandits in the hall. They began to run at Naruto, who stabbed the blade of Iga into the ground before pumping a huge amount of chakra into it. "Back the halls with shadows and bring forth a demon," chanted Naruto as shadows shot out of the blade, enveloping the walls, floor and ceiling in shadows. The 10 bandits just stopped dead in their tracks when the entire hall was covered in shadows, and like that, spikes of shadow jumped off the wall, impaling all of the bandits. Within 5 minutes, Naruto was once more in front of Gato's office, having had no other major incident since the one of the first floor. Naruto paused for a moment, letting his Sharingan flare to life in his eyes. Naruto then kicked the door open, surprising Gato. "Who the hell are you and what are you?" ordered Gato, only to stop as Naruto dashed forwards and held his blade to the midget businessman's throat. "Now Gato, be a good little bastard and fill out the forms to sign your company over to me," declared Naruto, glaring at Gato, who squeaked and nodded, pulling the forms out of his desk. "I need a name," stuttered Gato. "No, you don't just fill out the stuff you need to, I'll fill out the rest later," ordered Naruto. Gato nodded and filled out the form before handing it to Naruto, who took it and slipped it into his trench coat pocket. "Now be a good little piggy and stand up," said Naruto, using the tip of his blade to ease Gato out of his chair. "Now you're going to open your safe," declared Naruto. Gato would have argued, but the sword was jabbed lightly into him, making him nod and move over to his safe, where he quickly spun the dial through the right combination before the door swung open, revealing a large amount of cash, gold and other things including scrolls. Naruto noted out of the corner of his eye, Gato was quietly moving towards the door. "Oh, you've outlived your usefulness," Gato said, Naruto turning around to the man who stopped dead when he heard Naruto speaking to him. Naruto bit his thumb before running the bloody digit along his arm before slamming the hand into the ground. "Fuchius no Jutsu, summoning jutsu," called Naruto as his hand touched the ground, causing a large Fuinjutsu matrix to spread out from his hand before smoke poured out. Once the smoke cleared, a bear-like creature with black fur and white plates with red tribal lines covering them and orange eyes. However, this creature had what looked like stones embedded in its skin all over, with several larger spikes on either side of the spine. "Ah, Naruto, I haven't seen you since our introduction," spoke the creature. "Yes, I know, and I'm sorry it has taken so long for Met to summon you, Renga, but right now I just need some chaos after that shit stain is wiped from the face of the earth," said Naruto, pointing to Gato. Renga looked at Naruto, then to Gato, before once more looking at Naruto and nodding. "Chaos, this is my kind of party," declared Renga before he jumped forward, slashing at the man, killing him before he could even scream. Renga then busted through the doors and left to cause some chaos. Naruto meanwhile pulled out a sealing scroll to seal everything into. With Anko had been sitting on the cell floor for about 5 minutes now and had yet to hear any of the chaos Naruto promised, but she refused to go against the plan, especially with the seals in the area fucking with her chakra. "Oh, what the hell is that thing?" screamed a voice from somewhere, and Anko smirked. That was the K. The purple-haired woman stood up, waiting another moment or two before ripping the door open and running out of her cell and up the stairs and out into the yard. What she saw was not what she had been expecting. In the yard was a large black bear-like creature swatting all of the bandits like they were flies. "Well, that's cool, I guess," muttered Anko before she pulled out a pair of kunai and rushed in and joined the creature attacking the bandits. After a few minutes, Naruto appeared and joined his summon and Anko in attacking all of the bandits. Flashback end. "And we killed all of the bandits on the way out," said Naruto. "Why the hell didn't you wait for us?" questioned an angry Kalina. "Because it was at first a scouting mission until Anko's henge got dispelled, then it turned into an assault," declared Naruto. "Well, good work you two. Someone needs to go and tell Tazuna that Gato's dead," said Kakashi, watching as Naruto's clothes became soaked, more than likely from soot and chakra, to get the blood out. "I'll do it," said Naruto as the blood ran out of his clothes and off his person before he flared Kaiten chakra to dry the clothes. "I'll come with you," declared Anko, whose bloody clothes had vanished, replaced with a clean set, but it was obvious that she hadn't used the same trick Naruto did with the blood still on her person. "Not with that much blood on you, you won't," declared Naruto. Anko walked over to a nearby lake and began washing the blood off while Naruto leaned on a tree. 20 minutes later. Tazuna's house. Naruto knocked on the door with Anko standing behind him. They both heard shuffling from behind the door. "Oh, Shinobi-san, please come in," said Tsunami as she saw it was Naruto and Anko. "What can we do for you?" asked Tsunami, motioning for the two ninja to sit at the table where Tazuna sat. "Nothing, we just came to talk," said Naruto, remaining standing, not planning on staying long. "What is it, kid?" questioned Tazuna. "Ito's dead," declared Naruto, shocking both Tazuna and Tsunami. What did you say?" questioned Tazuna. "Ito is dead, no longer on this mortal coil, pushing up daisies, cap it," said Naruto. "Inari, come down here," called Tsunami. Several minutes later, said boy appeared in the room only to see Naruto and Anko and then get mad. "What are you two doing here? Why don't you just go back to your cushy lives in your village miles away from the problems of our village?" growled the boy. Naruto glared at the boy. Inari scaled Tsunami, but it was too late. Naruto stood up abruptly and walked out of the house. "Just so you know, brat, we came to tell you all that Gato is dead," declared Anko, making Inari's eyes go wide before Anko walled out of the house. Anko followed Naruto as he ran off into the forest. Anko jumped up into the trees as Naruto stopped in a clearing. "Haten Gakakyu no Jutsu, fire-style fireball jutsu," yelled Naruto, spewing forth a fireball towards a tree. "Iofuten hop muinzu, gale-style northern winds," roared Naruto, pushing his hands out as wide as they could go before slamming his hands together, making gale force winds swing around from his hands, slamming the trees together. Branton Ria's SKASU storm-style laser circus, screamed Naruto, a halo of light forming around his clasped together hands before about 6 bolts of lightning shot out of the halo towards yet another tree, making it explode into a cloud of splinters. Naruto then yanked Iga off his back before charging forwards and slicing through a tree trunk before shadows shot out of the blade, making the tree shatter into splinters. Aya screamed, Naruto dropping to his knees and his sword screaming up into the sky. Anko, seeing her student in trauma, dropped from the tree before walking over to her downed student. Naruto-kun, said Anko as she knelt down beside him. He turned to face her. Anko-sen, said Naruto, interrupted by the woman pulling him into her chest in a hug. Naruto's eyes began to water. It's just so, spoke Naruto. I know, Naruto, I know, said Anko, patting Naruto's back, and like that the floodgates broke and Naruto began crying, his eyes out on Anko's shoulder. Anko just let Naruto cry silently, condemning the village for hurting such a kind soul. After a few moments Naruto stopped crying, but Anko still held him to her in a hug. After a moment though, Naruto's arms went slack and Anko looked down at the boy who had apparently fallen asleep in her embrace. Deciding against going back to camp carrying an asleep Naruto, Anko created a clone to let the other Jonin know what she was doing as she shuffled herself over to a tree and let her eyes drift shut as she hugged Naruto. Chapter 20. C ranks Vi. I don't own Naruto. Naruto awoke from one of the most peaceful nights of sleep he'd had in months. As his eyes fluttered open and he looked down, he realized why. Naruto saw a pair of slender arms wrapped around his torso. Turning just so Naruto saw the still sleeping face of his sensei. Naruto just turned back and faced forwards as a small smile spread across his face. Thank you, Anko-chan, whispered Naruto, leaning back into the purple-haired woman's embrace before his Hone sensor skills picked up on a large chakra signature nearby, and not one he knew. Naruto sighed and created a clone which he quickly substituted with before walking away to find the signature. Naruto slipped through the forest stealthily towards the signature. When he got to just outside the clearing the signature was within, he could see a girl in the clearing picking herbs. Quickly deciding that a stealthy approach was better, Naruto quickly moved backwards enough that when he used his jutsu, it wouldn't alert the girl. Warwick no jutsu, sexy jutsu, whispered Naruto, transforming into Narumi. After removing her headband, Narumi walked into the clearing. Oh hello, said Narumi, faking surprise upon seeing the person in the clearing. Oh hello, said the girl, turning around. I'm Narumi, what's your name, said Narumi with a soft smile. I'm Haku, declared Haku, watching Narumi carefully. What are you doing out here so early? Questioned Narumi. Oh, I'm just picking some herbs to help my friend, he was attacked by some of Gato's goons recently, said Haku, picking a plant and putting it in her basket. Would you like a hand? Questioned Narumi. Haku turned to face the girl for a moment. If it's not too much trouble, said Haku with a kind smile. Narumi nodded and began picking the same herb she saw in Haku's basket. So where are you from, Haku-san? Questioned Narumi, looking over at Haku. I was born in the land of water, but my parents died when I was young, but my friend helped me and we left the land of water together, said Haku with a soft smile. So this friend of yours, what's he like? Questioned Narumi, not letting Haku return the question. He's a bit rough to everyone, but he's also kind at the same time. I see him as the father I never really had. He just wants what's best for everyone, even if the way he goes about it isn't the best way, said Haku. He sounds like a kind man, said Narumi. Yeah, he is, declared Haku. So why is he working for Gato? Questioned Narumi. Oh, that's because Gato promised us protection from Kiri Hunter Nin, said Haku nonchalantly, until a second later, when she realized what she said before her head snapped towards Narumi, it was gone, replaced with a pile of the herbs she'd been picking. Make sure Zabuza gets better, Haku-san, came the disembodied voice of Narumi. Haku quickly looked around before grabbing the herbs from the pile and putting them in her basket and walking out of the clearing. Narumi meanwhile had left the clearing and undone her transformation, returning to Naruto, and Naruto had returned to the clearing with Anko in it, only to find the woman squeezing his clone tightly and his clone asleep. Naruto once more substituted with his clone and dispelled the clone before it could wake up, causing Naruto to become sleepy. Letting his eyes flutter closed, Naruto once more fell back asleep in the arms of Anko. Several hours later, Anko woke up feeling something pressed against her chest. She was about to slap the thing, but just before she did that she realized what it was, and opening her eyes to make sure she saw that it was in fact Naruto, who she was hugging close to her chest. Images of the previous night sprung to the forefront of her mind. I've never seen him look so vulnerable, thought Anko, looking down at the sleeping face of her blonde student and friend. Never again, declared Anko, planting a gentle kiss on Naruto's forehead. Oh, Anko-sensei, morning, sleepily spoke Naruto, his eyes fluttering open. Morning yourself, sleepyhead, said Anko with a smirk on her face. Anko-sensei, about last night, began Naruto. Anko snapped out of her teasing mood. Thank you, Anko, said Naruto, hugging the woman. No problem, Naruto, we're friends, said Anko, hugging the boy with a smile on her face. After a minute or two, Naruto and Anko parted and just smiled at each other. Anko-chan, I know this might seem weird, but when we get back home, would you like to go out for dango or something? Questioned Naruto nervously scratching the back of his head. Naruto Uzumaki Uchiha, are you asking me out on a date? Questioned Anko with a grin on her face. Naruto just looked down shyly and nodded, scared of her response. Naruto, look at me, said Anko looking down at the nervous boy. Naruto-kun, said Anko. Still Naruto didn't look up. Anko pushed Naruto's head up with her finger, forcing the now terrified boy to look at her. Naruto-kun, I'm not saying no, but do you really want to date me? I'm twice your age. Questioned Anko. Yes, Anko-chan, you should know age means nothing to me, said Naruto with a smile. You have yourself a date, Naruto, said Anko with a grin, making Naruto's face split into a huge grin and hugged the woman. The two stayed in their embrace for several moments, just enjoying the contact, but after a moment the two broke the contact. I suppose we should head back, said Naruto as he pulled back from Anko with a sad look on his face. Yeah, I guess so, said Anko before both of them stood up. Both of them began to walk back to the clearing claimed by the ninja. However, on the way Naruto snaked his hand over Anko's before interlocking their fingers. Anko looked down to the blonde, then to their hands, before rolling her eyes as a grin spread across her face. As the two approached the clearing, Anko smirked and decided to mess with Naruto a little bit. Anko leant down, and when before Naruto realized Anko had pressed her lips to his. When Naruto realized what was happening, he went rigid, and before he could enjoy the feeling it was already over, and Anko was sauntering away with a sway in her hips and smirk on her face. Naruto numbly stumbled into the clearing after Anko, who smirked as she watched Naruto wander in. Are you two okay? Questioned Kalina looking at the two. All good, right Naruto? Declared Anko. Naruto just nodded, numbly still in shock about the kiss. Alright Anko, today's your team's turn at the bridge, declared Kakashi, getting a nod from the woman. Alright guys, you heard him, get whatever you need and be ready to go, said Anko, getting a nod from Kalina and Makari. Naruto just stood there for a moment before shaking his head violently, snapping himself out of his daze. Several days later, it was Team 6's second day guarding Tazuna. Fortunately the man had almost finished the bridge and there had not been any retaliations from any leftover Geto goons. Oh, look at this, so inconspicuous mist hanging over the bridge and bridge alone, yelled Naruto into the mist. Alright, I get it, brat, declared Zabuza as the mist began to clear, revealing the man and Haku masked and standing by his side. Nice to see you again, Haku, said Naruto much to the girl's confusion. Haku then blinked and, Narumi-san? Questioned Haku looking at the now red-haired girl. One and the same, said Naruto dispelling his regular henge. So this is the kid that tricked you in the woods, Haku, said Zabuza looking at the blonde. I'm sorry Zabuza-sama, said Haku. I thought it might interest you too to know Geto is dead, declared Naruto. What? Questioned Zabuza looking at Naruto. I killed him, sliced his head off, said Naruto pulling out a scroll and tossing it to Zabuza. What's this? Questioned Zabuza. Proof, declared Naruto as Zabuza opened the scroll revealing a sealing matrix. Zabuza pumped chakra into the matrix, unsealing what appeared to be a human head. So why not just kill Haku when you had the chance, and why show me this? Questioned Zabuza. I have an offer for you, Zabuza, Haku, said Naruto. Zabuza raised his eyebrow at Naruto. Go on, said the swordsman. I can offer you a position in the Leaf, a Jonin most likely, and Chunin for Haku, said Naruto. What do you want in return? Asked Zabuza. Nothing, I just don't want to see two people such as yourselves waste your lives on the run. Haku is a kind soul who would make an excellent healer, while you Zabuza would make an addition to a fairly dismal number of swordsmen in Konoha, and a fair interrogator or whatever path you choose. I have no judgment on what you do, said Naruto. Alright brat, but you got to prove to me that this will be worth it, said Zabuza taking the sword off his back. And how do you want to do this? Questioned Naruto getting into a stance while reaching back ready to pull his blades off his back. Haku and you spar, you win we go with you, she wins we go off on our own, said Zabuza handing his sword to Haku, who hefted the blade onto her shoulder. I like that idea, declared Naruto with a smirk. Naruto, are you sure about bringing them to Konoha? Questioned Anko looking to her student. Naruto turned back to Anko nodding before turning to face Haku. Before walking closer to the center of the bridge, the two met in the middle. Well Naruto-san, are you ready? Questioned Haku with Zabuza's large blade resting on her shoulder. Anytime Haku, said Naruto pulling both blades off his back and holding them at his sides. As if an unknown signal went off between them, both sword wielders jumped back from each other. Haku hefted the sword off her shoulder with her right hand and held it to her left before dashing forwards at Naruto, slashing at him in an upwards arc, only to be blocked by the demonic blade of Iga. Naruto smirked at Haku as a stick figure burst forth from his shadow, slamming its claw-like fingers into Haku's blade, making the girl back up. Haku eyed the shadow stickman as shadows wrapped around Naruto's form before jumping out of the way as a spike of shadow launched from Naruto's shadows forwards at her. Haku, thinking she was in the clear, was about to attack Naruto, only for spikes of shadow to branch out of the main spoke and for one of those to pierce her side. That's an interesting sword, Naruto-san, said Haku, watching the blonde roll Iga in his hand. Oh, you have no idea, said Naruto, who jumped up into the air. Itsuga Tenshin, Moonfang Heaven Piercer, called Naruto, launching out a red and black shockwave of chakra towards Haku, who blocked the attack with her large cleaver, only for a light-coated blade to begin to slice into it. Off to the side, Zabuza's eyes widened at the boy and his attack. How did he do that? Special blade or not? Lighting chakra shouldn't be able to cut through Kubikirabacho, thought Zabuza to himself watching the fight. That was unexpected, said Haku as she ran the sharp point of the blade across her skin, making the metal that had been cleaved away by Naruto's last attack return to normal. Haku then funneled her chakra into her own blade, making ice form on the edge of the blade. Oh, a Hyoten user. Hey, this could be very interesting, said Naruto, closing his eyes. How did you know? Questioned Haku, looking shocked at the blonde-haired boy whose eyes snapped open, revealing his three-tomoed Sharingan. For now let's dance, declared Naruto with a borderline psychotic smirk. 477. Chapter 21. C ranks V. I don't own Naruto. Naruto dashed forward, spinning his sword in his hands, so now he held it backhand. Once Naruto was within a meter of Haku, he swung his blade at her neck, only for it to be blocked for a second by a sheet of ice, and it turns out that 1 second was all Haku needed to jump back out of the path of the blade's slice. Naruto, however, spun all of the way around and crashed his heel into the side of Haku's head, however the Haku in front of him shattered into shards of ice. Naruto skidded to a halt with his back to Zabuza before narrowing his Sharingan, eyes looking back and forth before spinning his blade around once more, so it was forwards before swinging the blade over his head and then under his left arm. Itsuga Tenshin, Moonfang Heaven Piercer, called Naruto, launching a shockwave of black and red chakra from his blade back at Haku, who was trying to sneak up on him. Shit, shouted Haku before jumping out of the way of wave, only to have to block a shadow tendril with her blade. You can't hide from me, Haku, said Naruto with a grin as he turned to face her shadow stick men either side of him. Haku jumped back. Hyoten Hirik no Jutsu, Ice-style Ice Dragon Jutsu, yelled Haku, sending out an ice dragon that flew towards Naruto. Branton Smdaina Kaminari, Storm-style Grand Thunder, called Naruto, pointing Iga up into the air before a cloud started to form over the top of Haku and Naruto. But Zabuza, that's it, this kid's got Ranton, screamed Zabuza, in his mind working out how his prize blade was sliced earlier. But the two fighting ninja. Naruto jumped on top of the ice dragon and began to slide down its back towards Haku, who was still trying to work out what the cloud was. When Naruto reached the center of the ice dragon, he launched himself off it just as a bolt of lightning shot from the cloud and shattered the ice dragon. Naruto, with his sword in one hand, swung the blade down on Haku's head. Haku brought her own blade up to block with the flat of the blade, which became coated in ice. Naruto's blade slammed into the flat of the ice-coated blade, shattering the ice. Naruto then slammed his hand into the blade before pushing off it and flipping over Haku, landing back to back. Naruto then slammed his elbow into Haku's back, making her back bend in unnatural ways before Naruto then swung around his demonic blade, slicing through the air before slamming blade first into Haku's side, going an inch deep into her skin. Naruto then followed that up, spinning around and kicking Haku in the head, knocking her unconscious, making her fall to the bridge in a heap. Naruto, after seeing Haku not getting back up, walked over and knelt down next to the girl. Okay kid, you proved your point, said Zabuza, running up to Naruto, thinking the blonde was going to kill his adopted daughter. Yes, I know, that's why I'm healing her, said Naruto, pulling a seal out of his supplies pouch and placing it on Haku before pulsing his chakra into the seal, making the wound on Haku's side stitch itself shut. Zabuza picked up his blade, sticking it back on his back and picking up his daughter. Zabuza, I would like to see you and her here tomorrow. Bring what you need from your hideout, said Naruto, getting a nod from the Zabuza before he vanished in a swirl of water. Why do you want to see him tomorrow? Questioned Anko, looking at Naruto with a raised eyebrow. Naruto tossed a scroll to Anko. Another mission, said Anko, unbelieving, looking at the scroll. The other morning after I met Haku, I sent a letter to Jiji about her and Zabuza and then asked him about this, said Naruto. Anko by this time had actually opened the scroll and read it. What is it, Anko-sensei? Questioned Kalina, looking up to her sensei. Azuna-san, is there anyone in Wave who would take us to Uzushio? Questioned Anko, making Tazuna, Mikari and Kalina's eyes widen. The two young Kunoichi, recognizing the name from conversations with Naruto, Tazuna from when he was a boy, and the Uzushio ninja would often come to Wave before heading off on missions. Yes, but why are you going there? Questioned Tazuna. I want to visit my ancestral homeland and explore it, hopefully learning about my Kekkei Genkai, said Naruto, once more making Tazuna's eyes widen. I'll put you onto a guy this afternoon, said Tazuna. The next day. Alright brat, we're here, what's the deal? Questioned Zabuza as Haku stood next to the man. You two are coming with us on our next mission, said Naruto, getting a raised eyebrow from Zabuza. We're going to Uzushio so I can explore and collect any of my clan artifacts, declared Naruto. Zabuza nodded, now understanding why they needed their stuff. They were more than likely going to Uzushio, then straight back to Konoha. What are we waiting for? Questioned Zabuza. Nothing now, said Naruto, walking away. The two Jonin and three Genin following Naruto. Several hours later, Naruto and his team plus Zabuza and Haku stood on a boat with the captain beside them. "So how are we supposed to get past the whirlpools?" questioned Kalina looking over the edge of the boat. "I remember from when I were a lad the blood of an Uzumaki needs get to the center of the whirlpool, usually they just cut their hand and flick their hand towards the whirlpool," said the captain. Everyone turned to Naruto who already had a kunai in hand before slicing the other palm and flicking his hand over the edge of the boat, letting the blood from his hand fly into the water, and more specifically into the swirls of the whirlpool where they watched as the blood mysteriously stayed together as it swirled around the eddy. As it reached the bottom and disappeared, everyone waited with bated breath, and after a moment there was a golden flash, and the whirlpool slowed and slowed until they came to a stop. Once the eddies had stopped, the boat carefully moved through the now flat water. It didn't take long after that for the boat to reach the shore. Once they made it to the shore, Naruto told the captain they would be a couple of hours and asked him to wait for them. The ninja had landed on a small shoreline that cut a pass through the mountains that seemed to surround the island. Naruto leading the other five walked along the path which seemed to be broken up by the remnants of earth jutsu. Naruto's head lowered as he saw that Mikari, Kalina, Anko, even Haku looked at Naruto in worry. Naruto just powered forwards trying to ignore the obvious signs of the attack on his ancestral home. Once the ninja reached the actual village of Uzushiogakure, they found a pair of metal gates welcoming them, or rather what was once a pair of metal gates, long since rusted, greeting them. Naruto looked down before pushing the gates open. With a great groan of protest, the gates opened slightly before simply falling off of their hinges. What welcomed the ninja inside the village gates was not pleasant. The first thing that was seen particularly by Naruto were skeletons. Naruto stiffly walked over to the first skeleton which he saw, and much to his anger he saw loosely wrapped around the skull, a Uzushio headband. Naruto dropped next to the skeleton. "You fought well, kinsman, you can rest in peace," said Naruto, his hair shadowing his eyes. Naruto put his hands together in a single hand sign. Page Bunshin no Jutsu, Shadow Clone Jutsu, weakly called Naruto, creating a horde of Naruto's hundreds of them. "Collect all of the Uzumaki skeletons and bring them to the tower, burn the rest, and anything like weapons, armor and materials bring to the tower as well," said Naruto. The clones stood there for a moment. "Go," yelled Naruto, making the clones scatter, one clone taking the skeleton in front of Naruto, who didn't even seem to notice the blonde's head was down, his hair shadowing his eyes. Anko, who had been watching Naruto closely since they left the boat, stepped forwards and knelt down behind Naruto before pulling him into a hug, momentarily surprising the blonde before he somewhat relaxed into Anko's embrace. Naruto took a deep breath before standing up. Anko, still hugging him, stood up too. "Thank you, Anko-chan," said Naruto, not turning around but letting a small smile grace his features. While the clones ran around burning the bones of dead Kiri, Kumo or Iwanin for collecting the bodies of fallen Uzumaki, the real Naruto along with other 5 ninja walked towards the tower in the center of the village. "Wow," declared Anko as they walked up to the tower. It was at least the size of the Hokage Tower and had 3 different rivers running underneath it. The rest of the ninja couldn't help but agree with Anko. Walking into the tower, the ninja could see a set of stairs going up and another set going down. Naruto, deciding that there could only be 1 or maybe 2 floors down, decided to head down first. As it turned out, there was only 1 basement floor which upon examination looked like people had been trying to breach a door but had no luck with. Naruto instantly recognized the style of door and worked out why. "The clan vaults," muttered Naruto, shocking the other ninja. Zabuza had heard stories from the Kirin who had tried to breach these vaults to get the Uzumaki Fuinjutsu scrolls. It was impossible to get into. Well, that's what the Kirin said. Zabuza wasn't stupid, he could see seals all over the door, meaning there would have been barriers and blood seals and the like to stop people like the Kirin from getting in. Naruto walked up to the door, running his hand over the seals, getting a feel for them, also analyzing them with his Sharingan. Surprisingly, there was a bit of seals about the Sharingan, presumably made so Madara could access the vaults after he married Naruto's grandmother. It took several minutes for Naruto to analyze the seals and work out what they did, which was amazing seeing as the next most knowledgeable person with seals, Kalina, could barely decipher any of them. Naruto once more pulled out his trusty kunai and sliced his palm. At the same time he activated his Sharingan. His Uzumaki blood, while strong, might not unlock it, so he would have to use the catch in the seals designed for his grandfather, along with his own Uzumaki blood to open the sealed door. Naruto rubbed his bloodied palm along the door while his Sharingan was active. The wall pulsed white for several moments before finally glowing gold and then splitting down the center before opening inwards. "Well, here we go," said Naruto, walking into the room, followed closely by Anko, then by Mikari and Kalina, then Zabuza and Haku. Once they got inside, they were greeted by the sight of hundreds upon hundreds of scrolls lined up and split into categories: ninjutsu, kinjutsu, fuinjutsu, taijutsu, jinjutsu, and even a small section on dojutsu, although Naruto assumed that was all Sharingan texts. "Page Bunshin no Jutsu, Shadow Clone Jutsu," called Naruto once more, creating a small army of clones. Naruto pulled out 6 scrolls and tossed them to 6 random clones. "Seal everything in sections," declared Naruto, getting a salute from all of the clones. "Naruto-kun," said Anko, drawing the blonde's attention to her. She pointed to his chest where his crystal necklace was glowing. Naruto raised an eyebrow, but then noticed that a section of the wall was also glowing a bit. Chapter 22. Chunin exams. I don't own Naruto. Naruto and Anko walked down the streets of Konohagakure, their team having completed their reports on all 3 of their missions not 5 minutes prior, with Zabuza and Haku being taken off the T&I to make sure they weren't taking advantage of Naruto, and Mikari and Kalina both heading home. Naruto and Anko were now on their date. Both had toyed with the idea of going home first, but neither were that desperate, so they simply decided to have their date while the afternoon was still young. Anko was leading Naruto to her favorite dango shop, which she was sure the owner wouldn't care about Naruto's burden, as the owner was a former ninja who was friends with a Yondaime Hokage, so he would know the difference between the seal and the kunai within her Naruto, and the kyuubi within as the case may be. "Are you sure this guy won't care, Anko?" questioned Naruto, looking apprehensively at the purple-haired Kunoichi. "Yes, Naruto, I'm sure he was a ninja and was friends with a Yondaime, he knows his way around seals," said Anko, smiling sadly that Naruto was this jumpy about new people in the village. The 2 ninja walked into the market district. Naruto's eyes were constantly darting around back and forth like a deer in headlights. Naruto was ready to bolt at any moments. The bond nearly jumped out of his skin when Anko put a gentle hand on his shoulder to calm him down. Naruto looked up to the woman before a smile spread across his face. Calming down slightly, Naruto was able to walk at a more relaxed pace beside Anko. It thankfully only took 5 minutes for Naruto and Anko to reach the dango shop. Walking in, there was thankfully few people there. "Ah, Anko, nice to see you again. I see you brought a friend," declared a man behind the counter. He was a tall man, he had short spiky brown hair and green eyes. "Actually, Ren, he's my boyfriend," said Anko with a smile. Naruto, who had been nervous, perked up a bit being declared Anko's boyfriend. "Is that so, him?" said the now identified Ren, leaning down to Naruto's height to look the boy directly in the eyes. "Yes," declared Naruto confidently. "Well boy, you hurt her and you're dead meat," declared Ren with a narrowed gaze. "Ren," screamed Anko. "I will never let her get hurt when I'm around," declared Naruto, glaring back at the man. "Good," said the green-eyed man. 10 minutes later, Naruto and Anko walked out of the store with a container holding 5 sticks of dango each. Now it was Naruto's turn to be the leader of the 2, as he jumped to the roof, Anko following closely behind. "Where are we going, Naruto-kun?" questioned Anko, following Naruto closely. "Telling you would ruin the surprise, An-chan," declared Naruto with a small grin on his face, looking back at the woman. The 2 made their way across the village roof, hopping, Anko still trying to get Naruto to tell her where they were going, only for him to tell her every time that he wouldn't ruin the surprise. However, Anko got a good idea of where the 2 were going. When they reached the bottom of the Hokage monument, the 2 of them ascended the stairs leading to the top of the monument. Once the 2 made it to the top, Naruto led them to the railing before jumping over it. Anko jumped over the railing and landed next to the blonde. Naruto walked over to the edge before jumping out onto the Yondaime Hokage's head. Anko followed his lead. Once the 2 were on the great stone head, the 2 of them sat down. "This place is my favorite place in the village," said Naruto, looking out over the whole village, while Anko began digging into the dango. She was running on autopilot as she looked out over the village. "It's beautiful," declared Anko. "Not as beautiful as you," said Naruto with a smirk. Anko just raised a brow and smiled, casting a sideways glaze at the blonde. Several hours later, Naruto and Anko had remained atop the stone face of the Yondaime Hokage for hours, simply enjoying each other's company. But all good things must come to an end, and for both the Jonin sensei and her student, the date was a good thing. "It's getting dark," said Naruto. "The sun had set not 20 minutes ago." "Yeah, I guess we should head home," said Anko, standing up. "I'll escort you home, An-chan," said Naruto, standing up, taking her hand in his own with a smile. Anko just rolled her eyes as a small smile spread across her face. The walk to Anko's apartment was quiet as neither said a word, just basking in the other's presence. Once the 2 reached Anko's apartment complex, they stopped. Anko turned to Naruto. I had fun, Naruto-kun," said Anko with a smile, holding his hands. "Yeah, we should do this again sometime," said Naruto with a smile. "That sounds nice," said Anko with a smile. "Good night, Anko," said Naruto, turning to leave. "Boy, get back here, you," said Anko with mirth, pulling Naruto back around to plant a kiss on his cheek. "See you later, Naruto-kun," whispered Anko before she disappeared into her apartment complex. Naruto's face went bright red as a blush spread across his cheeks. Naruto then let a goofy grin appear on his face before turning and heading for the Uzumaki compound. Several minutes later, Naruto walked through the gates of the Uzumaki compound, ready to just walk into his house and go up to bed and fall on it, then fall asleep, but just before he could open the door, he felt a chakra build up behind him. Naruto turned around to see a female purple-haired Nico masked Anbu appearing in a shunshin, just as the leaves began to die down. "Yes, Yugao-chan?" questioned Naruto, looking at the woman. "Naruto, you need to come to the hospital right now," said Yugao in a happy but scared and hurried tone. "What's going on?" questioned Naruto, scared what was happening. It's easier to show you, said Yugao, placing a hand on Naruto's shoulder before the two were engulfed in a swirl of leaves. The Noha Hospital coma ward. The leaves died down from the shunshin, and Naruto found himself outside of Kushina's hospital room. Naruto was now very worried. He pushed the door open and was greeted by an unexpected sight. "Where is my baby? Where is Naruto?" questioned the upright and conscious Kushina, glaring at Hiruzen. "Ha-chan?" questioned the blonde from the now open door, unbelieving his eyes. Kushina turned to the voice, and her eyes locked on Naruto. "And then Naruto?" questioned the red-haired woman, noting the whisker marks on his cheeks and the look of the boy. He had his father's skin tone and hair, but he had her eyes and facial structure. "Ah-chan," said Naruto, launching himself at Kushina, catching her in a hug. "Oh Naruto, my baby boy," said Kushina, hugging Naruto as tears threatened to spill from her eyes. "Let's leave these two alone for a while, people, they have a lot to talk about," declared Hiruzen, clearing everyone from the room. "Ah-chan, you're really awake," said Naruto, pulling back from their hug, looking straight up into her eyes. "Yep, I'm awake and I swear I'll never leave you again, Musuko, son," declared Kushina with a teary smile, hugging Naruto close to her. Naruto just smiled and hugged his mother. "So this is what a mother's love feels like," muttered Naruto, hugging Kushina, who hugged him tighter after hearing his comment. "You don't know a mother's love?" questioned Kushina, looking down at her son, who looked up and shook his head. "No, the closest was probably Mikoto-sensei, that is until she died," said Naruto, looking down sadly at the loss of Mikoto. "Mikoto is dead?" questioned Kushina. "Yet all of the Uchiha except her youngest son, who is an asshole, and us I guess," said Naruto, shocking Kushina before realization dawned on her. "We didn't seal you, Sharingan," said Kushina. "It's fine, I know about Jiji. Hikari Abasan told me about him," said Naruto. "Hikari, she's here?" questioned Kushina, looking excited only to get a sad head shake from Naruto. "No, I met her on a mission not all that long ago," said Naruto. "Oh okay," said Kushina, looking down sad. She hadn't seen her sister in years. "So you're a ninja?" questioned Kushina, getting a nod from her son. "Yep, Genin Naruto Uzumaki Uchiha at your service," said Naruto with a smile. "Well Naruto Uzumaki Uchiha, please regale me with your stories of adventure and danger," said Kushina somewhat sarcastically. About an hour later, Naruto sat on Kushina's bed telling her about his ninja career until the door was opened. "Mr. Uzumaki, if you would, could you wait outside? We need to talk with Kushina-sama in private," said a doctor. Naruto nodded and stepped out of the room, standing by the door. After a few moments, the doctor came out of the room before turning to Naruto. "To put your mind at ease, nothing is wrong, she should be okay to leave in a few moments," said the doctor, walking down the hallway. Naruto turned and walked into Kushina's room once more. "So Ka-chan," the doctor said, Naruto stopping the second he saw Kushina, and a blush spread across his face. Kushina stood in the middle of the room, wearing only a pair of pants, and was halfway through putting a bra on, but both Uzumaki froze when they saw each other. Naruto's Sharingan unconsciously flared to life, burning the image of a topless Kushina into his mind. Naruto turned around and stepped back out of the room. Kushina stood there a moment, still frozen. Her son had just seen her half naked, a deep blush spread across her face, before she quickly finished putting her bra on before putting her shirt on. "Ami, she's beautiful," thought Naruto, who was once more outside. "Nari-chan, I'm decent," said Kushina from inside the room. Naruto was half tempted to not go in, but he walked into the room looking down. An awkward silence filled the room. "We should go," said Naruto. "Why yes," said Kushina awkwardly before both of them walked out of the room. Kushina on a pair of crutches, she had been cleared to leave, but not yet cleared to use jutsu, so no shunshin, so the two walked calmly out of the hospital and began heading to the Uzumaki compound. The walk to the compound was silent and kind of awkward. "So you do live in the Uzumaki compound," said Kushina, getting a nod from Naruto. "Yes, since I was 6 and began training with Yugao-sensei and Mikoto-sensei," said Naruto. "Oh, Yugao-chan has taught you?" questioned Kushina. "Yeah, she was one of my first sensei," said Naruto, nodding, opening the gate to the compound. The two Uzumaki walked up to the main house of the compound. Naruto opened the door for Kushina, who hobbled into the lounge room before taking a seat on the sofa. "Naruto honey, could you get me a glass of water?" called Kushina. "Sure Ka-chan," said Naruto, walking into the kitchen to get his mother a glass of water. "Thank you Musuko," said Kushina as Naruto walked into the lounge room, handing the water to his mother before leaving the room to set up a spare room for Kushina to use. After 5 minutes, Naruto returned to the lounge room and sat on the sofa opposite Kushina. Ka-chan," said Naruto nervously. "Yes, Naru-chan?" questioned Kushina. "Who was my father?" questioned Naruto. Kushina was taken aback. "You don't know?" questioned Kushina. Naruto shook his head. "Well Naruto, your father was Minato Namikaze the Yondaime Hokage," said Kushina, shocking Naruto. "Are really my father is the Yondaime?" questioned Naruto, shocked, getting a sad nod from Kushina. "Yes he was," said Kushina sadly. "Why are you sad, Ka-san?" asked Naruto. "Well you see, talking about your father reminds me that I never found a man that I loved," said Kushina. "But to-san?" questioned Naruto. "He was like a brother to me. I hadn't met a man I loved, but I wanted a child, so I asked Minato to help," said Kushina. Chapter 23. Chunin exams too. I don't own Naruto. Naruto stood in one of the Uzumaki clan training grounds. He had left Kushina back at the house so he could go and train. Page Bunshin Jutsu, Shadow Clone Jutsu, called Naruto, creating several hundred clones to spar against. Naruto slowly pulled both swords off his back and flared his Sharingan. Let's dance, declared Naruto, launching himself forwards, his blades in his hands, Iga in his left hand in a backhanded grip, while the other blade was held in a normal grip. Naruto brought his right blade across his body to block a strike from a clone who had both swords out, and Sharingan flared. Naruto, with his blade still locked, spun around to his left, stabbing Iga straight into his clone's chest, before quickly substituting with a random clone, as another 3 clones brought their blades down on him. Heitan Gakakyu no Jutsu, Fire-style Fireball Jutsu, called the real Naruto from a nearby tree line, sending out a huge fireball which tore through about 10 clones before they started jumping out of the way. Raiten Jibashi called Naruto, shooting out several bolts of electricity that arsed from clone to clone, popping another 30 of them. Suiton Tepdama called a clone, launching a ball of water at Naruto, who stood in a tree looking out over his clones. Naruto once more substituted with a clone. When Naruto appeared, he was already halfway through an attack. Itsuga Tenshim, Moonfang Heaven Piercer, called Naruto, sending out a wave of red and black chakra, slicing one more through even more clones. All that remained were about 50 clones. Just as Naruto was about to launch into another flurry of attacks, he made a shadow spike shoot out of his own shadow, piercing a clone. Naruto then threw his right hand blade up into the air, where it exploded, blades raining down on the battlefield. Paint my blades with the shadows of the underworld, Iga called Naruto, just as the blades embedded themselves in the ground, trees and rocks. His shadow shot out and engulfed all of the blades in his shadow, before revealing the Iga-like blades. Naruto charged forwards, picking up a second blade before front flipping. While in mid-air, he was engulfed by a cloud of smoke. Narumi burst forth from the smoke, slamming her heel down on a Naruto clone. Bursting it, she landed in a crouch before jumping up, slamming her elbow into another's clone's chest, then binging her fist up, slamming that into the clone's nose before, with the original Iga, Narumi spun around, slicing about 5 clones in half with the shadow blade, before slamming the weapon blade first into the ground. A moment later, shadow tendrils shot out of the ground, impaling all of the rest of the clones. Naruto flipped back, landing in a crouch, making sure there were no extra clones lingering. Once she was sure the coast was clear, the redeeted Uzumaki stood up with a sigh. "Then Naru-chan?" questioned a voice from behind her. Narumi's eyes went wide. Turning around, she dispelled her transformation, and Naruto came face to face with a shocked Kushina. "Ah-chan, hi," said Naruto weakly. "How did you do that?" questioned Kushina, looking at Naruto shocked. "Do what, Ka-chan?" questioned Naruto, hoping she didn't see him or her, as the case may have been. "Naruto Uzumaki Uchiha, you know exactly what I mean, now tell me," said Kushina, putting her hands on her hips, glaring at him. "It was a henge," said Naruto weakly, hoping she would buy it. "No, it wasn't. I know those movements, Naruto, those were part of a kunoichi style. No male should be able to do them, so I will ask once more, how did you do it?" questioned Kushina, her tone getting dangerous towards the end. "It's a technique I created so I could master both the shinobi and kunoichi styles of our clans. I didn't want the teachings to die out, and I really wanted to learn taijutsu and kinjutsu from Yugao-sensei and Makoto-sensei," said Naruto, looking down. "So you made a technique that actually makes you a girl?" questioned Kushina, somewhat unbelieving. Naruto just weakly nodded. He was scared that Kushina would call him a freak or something just as hurtful, and vowed to never see him again. "So what do you call the technique?" asked Kushina, making Naruto look up at her shocked. "What?" questioned Naruto. "The technique, what do you call it?" asked Kushina. "The Warak no Jutsu, sexy jutsu," said Naruto, not sure what to think about Kushina's actions. "So how does it work?" asked an excited Kushina. Naruto quickly flipped through the required hand signs for the jutsu. "Warak no Jutsu," called Naruto, being engulfed by smoke only to be replaced with Narumi. "It works similarly to the henge, but instead of just a shell of chakra, my body is infused entirely with the chakra, morphing myself into whatever form I decide to take. However, as a side effect, whatever clothes I am wearing, when I activate the jutsu, disappear," said Narumi. Kushina walked slowly forwards around Narumi, examining the form. Narumi felt so exposed and covered herself with her hands. "But then how do you have these clothes on now? I doubt it's part of the transformation," said Kushina once more in front of Narumi. "No, these are clothes I bought after I mastered this jutsu, and then your old teammate drew this to help when he found out about the jutsu," said Narumi, lifting her sleeve, revealing the seal on her shoulder. "Yuten's work, I take it he was the only one who was into sealing," said Kushina, getting a nod from Narumi. "You seem awfully comfortable in that form, Naruto," said Kushina. "Narumi," said Naruto, confusing Kushina. "I felt given that with this I am essentially a different person and a girl, I should have a different name, a more feminine name, so I decided on Narumi," said Narumi. "So you consider you and Naruto two separate people?" questioned Kushina. "Yes," said Narumi simply. "Well, is there anything I should know about my daughter that's significantly different from my son?" asked Kushina, pulling Narumi into a hug. Narumi's eyes went wide and she began to cry into the embrace. "Narumi-chan?" questioned Kushina, pulling back from the hug only to see Narumi crying. "What's wrong, Narumi-chan?" questioned Kushina. "I was so scared, Ka-chan," said Narumi, looking up at Kushina. "What for, sweetie?" questioned Kushina, confused. "I was scared that you would think I'm a freak or something and never want to see me again," said Narumi, crying against Kushina. "Honey, I would never say that. You are the most important person in my life right now, and no matter what you will always be my child, be it my son or my daughter," declared Kushina with a smile to Narumi, causing the girl to once more burst into tears and crying against her mother. Several hours later. Several hours had passed since Narumi had been introduced to Kushina. They had spent the time since then getting acquainted a second time. Narumi stood up in the middle of a conversation. "What is it?" questioned Kushina. "Yugao is at the front door," said Narumi, releasing her transformation, revealing Naruto once more as he went to the door, opening it just after Yugao knocked. "Yes, Yugao-chan?" questioned Naruto. "The councils want to see you and your mother," said Yugao. Naruto nodded. "And I would try and remember the laws of Konoha. You will need them," said Yugao before vanishing in a swirl of leaves. Naruto walked back into the lounge room where Kushina sat. "What did Yugao want, Naru-chan?" asked Kushina. "The councils want to see us and it can't be good," said Naruto. "Why?" questioned Kushina. "Yugao-chan said I'd need my knowledge of Konoha's laws," said Naruto. "Well, best not keep them waiting, I guess," said Kushina, standing up. 10 minutes later. "Where the hell are they? We called them 10 minutes ago," questioned a civilian. "Give them a fucking break. Kushina got out of the hospital yesterday," growled Tsume Inyazuka, the matriarch of the Inyazuka clan. Just before any more comments could be made, Kushina and Naruto walked into the room. "So, what do the oh so honorable civilian council demand of us today?" questioned Naruto sarcastically. "Watch your tone, boy," said a fat merchant spitting boy with as much venom as he could muster, only for a kunai to skim past his face. "Watch your tone, pig," growled Kushina, glaring at the man who dared talk to her son that way. "Kushina, Naruto, you two have been called here regarding the Kra," said Hiruzen, distracting everyone from making moves they would regret later. "Yes, Hokage-sama is right, Kushina, you have 1 month to find a new partner and begin producing heirs or your partners will be selected for you at the behest of the council," said the fat man from earlier, smirking, licking his lips, making Kushina's skin crawl. "And Naruto, you will be required to take multiple partners with a minimum of 4 by the time you reach Chunin, or they too will be chosen at the behest of the council," declared one of the elders. "No," said Naruto quietly. "What was that?" questioned the same elder. "I said no," repeated Naruto. "You're acting like you have a choice in the matter," said the elder. "I know I have no choice in the matter, but you have several bits wrong," said Naruto. "No, we don't. That is you Kra condition," said a civilian. "No, it's not, as it is not legal for you to set the condition of how many partners I have to have before I reach a certain rank. It must be age, and the minimum age you can set is 18, declared Naruto, glaring at the civilians. "Second of all, if I reach that age without the minimum set by the council, you cannot force me to marry anyone, you can only give me a list that I must select from within a few days or lose all clan rights," said Naruto. "And thirdly, you can't force my mother to do anything for women. The Kra is completely optional," said Naruto. "Actually, Naruto, when there is one member at the age capable of producing heirs in emergency situations, woman can be forced into the Kra," declared the elder with a victorious grin. "Well then, fuck you, I'll take my mother as my first partner," declared Naruto, getting shocked looks from everyone in the room. "What, why you can't?" declared one of the civilians. "No, I am well within my rights to do so. It says in the Kra that any male Kra person's partners cannot be forced onto another Kra program, and there is also nothing against incest within the Kra Act. In fact, it is encouraged so as to keep the bloodline pure, so that means as long as I am alive, you literally cannot touch my mother," declared Naruto, glaring at the civilians. "Naru-chan, are you sure?" questioned Kushina, not really sure about being romantically involved with her own son. Naruto sent her a reassuring look. "Well, I believe with it this meeting is settled, dismissed," declared Hiruzen with a smug look on his face. He was fairly sure he knew what Naruto's plan was, so it was fine, he trusted the boy. But that said, Naruto took Kushina's hand and shunshined out of the room, ignoring the cries to stop and the doctor's orders. Kushina would need an explanation fast. Uzumaki compound. Naruto and Kushina appeared in the compound in a swirl of leaves, making Kushina a little bit disorientated, but after getting over it, she looked at Naruto. "What was that, Naruto?" questioned Kushina, looking hurt. "Ha-chan, let me explain first, okay?" questioned Naruto. She hesitantly nodded. "By me claiming you as my first partner, the council can't touch you until I reach 18, and they can prove we aren't in a proper relationship, so by doing this you have until I turn 18 to find who you want to spend the rest of your life with," said Naruto with a smile. Realization dawned on Kushina, and she rushed to hug her son. Chapter 24. Chunin Exams 3. I don't own Naruto. Naruto sat against a tree in his team's training ground. Training in front of him were Mikari and Kalina. All three of them were waiting for Anko, who had yet to show up, which was unusual as it was past the time they said they would meet for team assignments. "Sorry I'm late guys," declared Anko as she appeared in a swirl of leaves next to Naruto. "What kept you An-chan?" questioned Naruto, stepping up behind the woman and hugging her. "Here you go super stud," said Anko, handing Naruto a form. "You two need one too," said Anko, handing the two girls a form. "Chunin exams entrance forms?" questioned Naruto, hugging Anko. "I entered you three into the Chunin exams," said Anko, leaning into Naruto's embrace. "Show up at room 301 tomorrow at 10, said Anko. The next day, Kalina, Mikari and Narumi walked up the Konoha Academy. Narumi was the one with her teammates, the three of them deciding to be stealthy and have people underestimate them. So they had to appear as meek as possible, which despite being confirmed as untrue, meant all three being kunoichi, as women in the ninja world were looked down upon, so they were with Narumi, despite Naruto being the one on the entrance form. Narumi had neither sword strapped to her form, both being sealed away. The three girls walked into the academy pretending to be weak, not looking anyone in the eyes, moving quickly through the hallways, quickly going up the stairs. When they reached the second floor, they walked out into the hallway, only to find a huge group of people around a door marked 301. "Ninjutsu," whispered Narumi, getting a nod from Mikari and Kalina as the trio scampered past the group of genin, moving to the next set of stairs. Moving up the stairs, they walked into a hallway, at the end of which stood Anko waiting for them. "Hey An-chan," said Narumi, walking up to the woman. "Hello there Naru-chan," said Anko, purring out hello as she stepped closer to Narumi. "An-chan I stuttered Narumi, interrupted by Anko. "I don't care if you're Naruto or Narumi, I love you, this just means in this form you're my girlfriend," said Anko, kissing Narumi on the lips, shocking the girl. "Do you two need a moment?" questioned Kalina, jokingly looking away. "Don't you two act like this isn't turning you two on," said Anko with a grin plastered on her face, making both Mikari and Kalina blush. I don't know what you mean," said Kalina, looking away. "Why yeah, what Kalina-chan said," declared Mikari, not looking at Anko. How you two keep telling yourselves that," said Anko with a smirk. "What are you here for, Anko-sensei?" asked Mikari, still not looking at Anko. "I came to wish you three good luck," said Anko with a smile. "Thanks Anko-sensei," said Kalina, walking past Anko, looking down, a blush plastered on her face. Mikari didn't even say anything before following her friend. "That was me Nan-chan," said Narumi, only to be pulled into a deep kiss. "I know, but they need to work out that they want each other, you and I can both see it," whispered Anko after the two parted. Narumi sighed and nodded before stepping back from Anko. "See you later An-chan," said Narumi, walking into the room where she was met with a huge amount of kai. Keeping to her scared persona, Narumi scuttled over to her team, who sat in the corner of the room. 5 minutes later, all of the rookie genin, including Tenten's team, had walked into the room. A white-haired Konoha genin began to walk towards the rookie genin, only for a huge cloud of smoke to erupt at the front of the room, revealing a jonin and several chunin. "Alright you lot, shut up, because this is the beginning of the first stage of the Chunin exams, and I am your proctor Ibiki Murino," said Ibiki, glaring at the genin. "Don't bother sitting down, you won't be staying in this room for much longer. Each of your teams will be given a room number. Within each room you will find a Chunin restrained in a chair. They know the location of the next exam. You may use any methods excluding maiming or lethal means to retrieve this information before making your way to the location. Should you make it to the right location, the second proctor will inform you of your passing," declared Ibiki. "So everyone come up here and get your room number. Once you have it, you will remain in this room until everyone has their own, then you will have an hour to get the information out of your targets and get to the location," said Ibiki. 10 minutes later, Naruto, Mikari and Kalina stood in front of the room they were assigned. "Alright you two, let me do the talking, okay?" asked Naruto, getting a nod from his two teammates. The three opened the door. Walking inside, they found an angry-looking Chunin. "So here's the deal, we can do this the easy way where you tell us where the next stage is, or we can do this," said Narumi, interrupted when the Chunin spat in her face. "The hard way it is," declared Narumi, wiping the spit off her face. "You two wait outside, this isn't going to be pretty, and you don't need to be seeing this," said Narumi, pumping chakra to her gloves, making chakra strings form from her fingertips. Kalina and Mikari looked at each other before quickly leaving the room. "Now you and I are going to have a lot of fun," said Narumi, a psychotic smirk coming to her face. "Go to hell bitch," declared the Chunin, only to be lashed at by 5 whip-like chakra strings connected to Narumi's fingertips. The red-haired girl then stepped up to her target with a grin on her face. Outside, Mikari and Kalina stood outside the door looking at each other. "What do you think she's doing?" asked Mikari. "She has known Anko for years, she knows how to break a person," said Kalina, having complete confidence in her friend. A crash was heard from inside the room. "She might be in trouble, he could have gotten free," said Mikari worriedly. "He won't have, she wouldn't let him," said Kalina. "Oh no wait," came a voice from inside the room. "Do you think we should stop her?" asked Mikari. "No, I don't want to die, and I don't want to see you hurt," said Kalina. "Now what's that supposed to mean?" asked Mikari, looking at Kalina. "You mean a lot to me, Mikari, I don't want to see you hurt," said Kalina with a small smile. Both of them heard a very unmanly scream from within the room and jumped into each other's arms from the shock. "Hey Kalina," stuttered Mikari, realizing the position they were in. Bakari said Kalina looking deeply into the girl's eyes, and before either of them knew it, they had closed the distance between them and their lips brushed against each other's, and that short amount of contact sent lightning through the two of them, and they crashed their lips together. Both girls heard the door opening, but completely ignored it in favor of kissing each other. "Bakari Kurikage, I love you," muttered Kalina as the two parted before resting her forehead against Makari's. "I love you too, Kalina," said Makari with a smile. "So sorry to interrupt," said Narumi, coughing to get their attention. Rather than jumping apart from each other like he had thought they would, they simply looked at him from their current position in each other's arms. "Where are we going, Narumi-chan?" asked Kalina. "Our playground," said Narumi with a smirk. "Oh, how wonderful, if we get the chance we should go swimming," said Makari with a smile. Getting a shrug from Narumi and a nod from Kalina, the three of them then shunshined from the building, appearing outside the gates of their home away from home. "Hami," that was quick, came a voice all three were familiar with. "Zabuza, you're the second exam's proctor?" questioned Narumi, looking up at the former Mistnin, getting a nod from him. "You three might as well get comfortable, you've got a wait ahead of you," declared Zabuza. The three genin nodded before moving, finding a nice place to relax. After sitting down, Narumi pulled out her guitar and began to strum on the instrument. "Oh, Narumi-chan, play us a song," said Kalina. "Please?" questioned Makari with a pout. Narumi rolled her eyes with a smile before beginning to play. "Unbreakable Firefight, I don't own this either. Where are the people that accused me? The ones who beat me down and bruised me. They hide just out of sight and face me in the light. They'll return, but I'll be stronger. God, I want to dream again. Take me where I've never been. I want to go there. This time I'm not scared. Now I am unbreakable. It's unmistakable. No one can touch me. Nothing can stop me. Sometimes it's hard to just keep going, but faith is moving without knowing, and I trust what I can't see. To reach my destiny, I want to take control, but I know better. God, I want to dream again. Take me where I've never been. I want to go there. This time I'm not scared. Now I am unbreakable. It's unmistakable. No one can touch me. Nothing can stop me. Forget the fear, it's just a crutch that tries to hold you back and turn your dreams to dust. All you need to do is just trust. God, I want to dream again. Take me where I've never been. I want to go there. This time I'm not scared. Now I am unbreakable. It's unmistakable. No one can touch me. Nothing can stop me. God, I want to dream again. Take me where I've never been. I want to go there. This time I'm not scared. Now I am unbreakable. It's unmistakable. No one can touch me. Nothing can stop me." Once the song was over, Narumi heard clapping not just from her teammates, there was clapping from Zabuza, as well as several other genin who showed up partway through the song. Narumi blushed, looking down before sealing her guitar away again and began to wait with the rest of the genin. Just under an hour later. "Alright you lot, congratulations on passing the first phase of the exam, however now is not the time for celebrations, you have a much more difficult stage coming up now," declared Zabuza with a hidden grin. "I'm sure you can all see the big-ass forest behind me. Well, that is where you will be spending the next 5 days. You see scattered throughout the forest are scrolls. These scrolls are the key to passing the exam. For the second stage you will need to retrieve a scroll from within the forest and then head to the center of the forest. You are not allowed to open the scrolls before you get to the tower, and the only clue as to the location of the scrolls will be posted on signs above starting gates. However, before I can send you off to your gates, I need each of you to fill out one of these forms," said Zabuza, handing a pile of forms to the closest genin, who just so happened to be Narumi, who took a form and passed the pile on. "What are the forms?" yelled a random genin. "They are forms saying if you die it's not Konoha's fault, as within this training ground are horrors the likes of which you have never seen, and if they don't kill you, the other genin just might, as in this test killing is permitted," said Zabuza. "You lot have 5 days to get a scroll and make it to the center of the forest," said Zabuza. As Narumi finished filling out her form, she took Makari and Kalina's filled out forms and handed them to Zabuza. "You three got gate 27, said Zabuza, getting a nod from the trio, who then began their trek around the forest. "Alright, so what's the plan?" asked Kalina. "Well, given we only get the map above the fence, I thought I'd memorize it with my Sharingan, then we could head off to the nearest one, Makari tracking it down for us while we back you up," said Narumi, turning to Makari, who nodded. Both then turned to Kalina, who also nodded. "That's a good plan," declared the dark blue-haired girl. Chapter 25. Chunin exams IV. "I don't own Naruto." Walking into the forest of death, Narumi let her transformation fall, revealing Naruto, who shook his head as if waking up before turning to his friends. "Alright you two, the nearest one was near a river about 2 clicks that way," said Naruto, pointing in a seemingly random direction. "Bakari, take the lead Kuragan active. Kalina, you got middle and be prepared to summon Zuexin at a moment's notice," said Naruto. Both girls nodded. Makari's eyes glowed an icy blue as she gained 4 black shark fin-like shapes spinning around her pupil and unsealed a bow and arrows from a seal on her gloves. Kalina moved behind Makari while pulling out a kunai, her other hand twitching, ready to flip through hand signs at any moment. Naruto unsealed both of his katanas, which he promptly strapped to his back, and once more flared a Sharingan to life, and like that the 3 genin took off towards their destination. 20 minutes later, the three genins stood beside a river looking around for the scroll. There was about a 20-meter gap from the tree line and the river. The three genin were looking around for the scroll that would allow them to pass, but they could see nothing. That was until they heard a bird squawking. Turning to face the origin of the squawking, they saw a large bird nest. They turned to each other. "You think?" questioned Naruto. "Well, the scroll isn't here, so maybe," suggested Mikari. "Let's face it, it's Zabuza. He's as sadistic as Anko. Where else would it be?" declared Kalina, getting a nod from both Naruto and Mikari. "I'll check," said Mikari, walking over to the tree which she began walking up. "Well, it's here," yelled Mikari down to her teammates as she stepped into the nest to pull the scroll out. Well, what do we have here?" came a voice from behind Kalina and Naruto. Both of them turned to find a trio of Aimnin standing before them. Onisijin. Kuchius, Demon Restriction. Summon, Khaled. Kalina quickly flipped through hand signs before slamming her hand on the ground where a pentagram formed in blood before the area inside the shape fell down and flames poured out of the hole. Before anything could be said, a clawed hand reached out of the hole, followed by a second before levering the following body out of the hole. Naruto, while this was going on, pulled both of his swords off his back before throwing his unnamed katana up into the air where it exploded, raining down. "Paint my blades with the shadows of the underworld, Iga," said Naruto, stabbing Iga into the ground, letting a shadow race out and up the blades that landed just as Naruto stabbed Iga into the ground. Once all his blades were tainted, Naruto stood back up, and as he did from his unoccupied hand, chakra strings formed from his fingertips. However, once they reached about a foot in length, the strings turned red. "Well, looky here, they think they can fight us," declared the leader of the Aimnin, stepping forwards. "Shall I maim them, mistress?" asked Zuexin, looking back at Kalina, who had a second kunai in her no longer free hand. The girl nodded, and like that Zuexin ran towards the three Aim genin, who rolled their eyes, brining their hands up before pulsing their chakra in an effort to dispel the obvious Jinjutsu. "No Jinjutsu, assholes," said Naruto, leaping over Zuexin, flicking his chakra thread hand sideways, flicking the threads forwards, sending them out where they wrapped around one of the genin's neck. "Itsuga Tenshim, Moon Fang Heaven Piercer," called Naruto, launching a wave of black and red towards the captive genin. The shockwave hit its mark, which pushed the ninja back while also tearing the strings, revealing marks wherever they touched the ninja's skin. Mikari screamed, the other two Aimnin watching as the ninja was launched backwards, only for the two of them to have to jump back to avoid an arrow from Mikari and a slash of claws from Zuexin. "You lot are dead now," growled the leader, getting up and stalking forwards, reaching out to grab one of the Iga-tainted swords, only for his hand to pass right through the hilt. "What the?" questioned the man, looking down at the blade. "Those blades only respond to my chakra," declared Naruto, running forwards, flicking his now yellow chakra strings forwards. They wrapped around the genin's arms before he dropped to the ground, spasming as if electrocuted. "Tag in, Naruto," called Zuexin from behind Naruto. The blonde jumped up, flipping backwards, avoiding the hands of the demon coming in and picking the paralyzed genin up by his head before pushing his hands together, crushing the man's skull in a shower of blood-gray matter and bone. The body, or what was left of it, fell, only to be sliced into little bits by the claws of the ferocious demon. Before the other two genin could say anything, they were both kicked, the heavily injured one by Naruto, while the uninjured one was hit by Kalina. Once he was far enough away from Kalina, an arrow hit him dead center of the chest, causing him to stumble back further while taking shocked shallow breaths. Quickly flipping through hand signs, the nearly dead ninja threw one last jutsu. Odendiricton, Earth-style Earth Dragon, weakly called the nin as a dragon, formed from the ground beneath the two Aim and two Konoha ninja before shooting off towards Kalina. However, as it drew closer and closer to the Konoha Kunoichi, only for it to be slashed to pieces by Zuexin as the Aim nin fell backwards, the last of his life fading from his eyes. "Fuchius no Jutsu, Summoning Jutsu," called Naruto, drawing everyone's attention back to him, well to the general area around him as he was engulfed in a giant cloud of smoke. The smoke was cleared in an instant by the wingbeat of a giant black-feathered bird. It looked like a giant raven with pure white claws halfway along its wings, pure white talons, and a white mask with red tribal marking all over it. Overall, the creature was just shy of half a boss summon in size and one of Naruto's creatures of grim summons. "Hi," screeched the bird. "Down here, Neela, it's me," called Naruto, making the bird look at him. "Me and my friends need a lift to the tower in the center of this forest. Could you take us there?" asked Naruto. The bird simply bent down, signaling for the three ninja to get on. "You're dismissed, Zuexin," said Kalina, running over to the bird. "As you wish, mistress," replied the demon, vanishing in a plume of flame. Mikari jumped down from the tree branch, scroll in hand, landing 10 meters from the bird. "Also, Neela, that guy over there, he's an enemy, but a pitiful one at that. Feel free to put him out of his misery if you want," said Naruto as Mikari jumped onto the bird's back. "Hold on, you three," called the bird, only Naruto understanding due to his grim mask. "Hold on, you two," repeated Naruto as the three of them each grabbed onto the Nevermore's feathers as it flapped its wings, flying upwards. As the aerial grim was at the height of the tree tops, it flicked its wings, raining razor-sharp feathers down on the last of the Aim genin, and with that done, the bird flew towards the tower in the center of the forest, the tower itself only just sticking out over the tree line. 20 minutes later, the black bird flew over the tower before circling around and landing on the ground in front of the tower. The two kunoichi jumped off the bird and walked inside the tower, Naruto staying behind a moment to pat the bird. "Thank you Neela," said Naruto with a smile, hugging the bird's head. "Think nothing of it," Naruto said the bird before vanishing in a plume of smoke. Naruto turned around and walked into the tower where he found both Mikari and Kalina looking back at him. "Well, we're here at the tower with the scroll, open it I guess," declared Naruto. Mikari nodded before pulling out the scroll. Once she broke the seal on the scroll, she unfurled it, revealing a sealing matrix, but before any of the three genin could begin to analyze it, smoke began pouring out of the seal. "Boss it," yelled Naruto. Mikari didn't need to be told twice, truth be told she didn't need to be told once. She tossed the scroll on the floor where it rolled out even further, and after a second a poof sound was heard. "Congrats you three, you passed the second round," declared a grinning Anko who stood atop the open scroll. "You have the rest of the 5 days of the second stage to roam free around the tower. However Naruto, if you're wanting to keep your weak facade up, you might want to transform," said Anko turning to Naruto at her last statement. Naruto nodded and flipped through the hand signs. "Warwick no jutsu, sexy jutsu," called Naruto, and in a plume of smoke, Narumi replaced Naruto. "You guys know this tower like the back of your hand, so feel free to wander. You have rooms 301 and 302, said Anko. "Are you sticking around, An-chan?" asked Narumi. "Well, I can't if you want me to, Naru-chan," said Anko, pulling the girl into a hug. Narumi nodded to her as she pulled her into a deep kiss. "Geez, get a room you two," said Kalina. "Jealous?" spoke Anko in a teasing tone. "Nope, because," said Kalina, pulling Mikari into a hug, deep and loving kiss. "Me and my girlfriend can do it too," said Kalina. Several days later, Narumi, Kalina and Mikari stood with the rest of the passing genin, all of 24 of them. "Alright you lot, I would like to congratulate every one of you for passing the second stage of the Chunin exams. However, I must disappoint all of you by informing you that there are still too many of you in the competition," declared Hiruzen. "Please cough cough Hokage-sama, allow me," asked a sickly looking jonin appealing next to the age cage, getting a nod from the man. "Hello everyone, I am cough cough H Echo, the proctor for the third cough cough exams, and as Hokage-sama cough 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 said, there is still too many of you cough 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 here, so we must have a preliminary round cough cough, so if any of you feel you cannot continue, please cough say so now, and keep in mind that from here cough cough on these exams are no longer a team effort," said now identified Hade. "I don't think I can go on anymore," said a white-haired Konohinin raising his hand. Hade noted the name down before nodding to the boy who turned around and left. "Anyone cough cough else?" asked Hade. When no other hands were raised, a man turned around and a panel rose upwards, revealing a giant screen. This screen will display the random cough cough matchups that these preliminaries will cough consist of. The matchups could be 1v cough cough 1 or 2v2 cough cough cough. You may be paired up with your best friend, your cough greatest enemy, or someone you may not know. However, given the even number cough cough, one of you will receive a bye, declared Hade, before names flashed on screen quickly, and an instant later a name flashed up onto the screen. "Sasu cough 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 Ichiha, you have the bye," said Hade, making Narumi snort. "Random my ass," muttered Narumi under his breath. "Now the cough cough first match will be Rock Lee of cough 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 Konoha versus Gaara of cough Suna," declared Hade as the two names appeared on screen. Chapter 26. Chunin Exams B. I don't know Naruto. Now I'm going to be honest, I made a little bit of a fuck up at the end of last chapter. It has been changed, but some people would have seen the match was Tenten v Tamari. I'll be honest, I copy-pasted that section from Ice King and forgot to change the matchup, so for those who are unaware, the match I changed it to was Gaara v Lee. Winner cough Gaara of Suna cough cough cough, said Hade, looking at the destruction of the battlefield. They would have to wait a few moments for the field to be remade after the destruction caused by those two genin. Everyone watched on in shock as the field began reforming before their eyes. Narumi, in particular the red-haired Uzumaki, recognized the process of the reforming from her clan's training ground. It was all autonomous and used seals to preserve an image of the area inside the seals, and when chakra was applied to a specific seal, it would reform to the exact image that was stored. Within moments the seals had reformed the battleground. Once the arena was reformed, everyone turned to the screen as names flashed upon it. After a few moments the flashing slowed until it stopped on. Would Naruto cough cough Uzumaki, Tenten Higurashi, Sai cough cough Shimura and Kiba Inuzuka cough 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 please join me, declared Hade. Narumi looked over to Tenten with a smirk as the bun-haired girl walked down the stairs with a smirk of her own. Sai and Kiba were already on the ground. "Naruto Uzumaki," called Hade, seeing no one else coming down from the second floor. It was at that point Narumi walked forwards and jumped over the rails, falling to the ground, landing in a crouch. Narumi exploded into smoke. After a second a figure walked out of the smoke. Naruto smirked as he pulled his gloves tighter, walking next to Tenten. "Well, aren't you Mr. Dramatic today?" declared Tenten with a smirk. Naruto just mock bowed. "I try," declared Naruto with a half smirk. "If all combatants are cough cough ready, then begin," called Hade before jumping away from the arena. "You're going down, Uzumaki," declared Kiba, running at Naruto, his fist cocked back. Tenten was about to jump in when Naruto flicked his hand to the side, letting red chakra strings form from his fingers that flew around and wrapped around Kiba's wrist. "What the hell, God, burns," screamed Kiba, skidding to a halt and clutching his captured wrist as the strings began burning. "That's what you get for being cocky," declared Naruto before biting his left thumb, sliding it along his summoning tattoo, before slamming his hand on the ground where a plume of smoke erupted. "CHMJK Giga, Super Beast imitating drawing," said Sai, drawing creatures on a scroll before 10 lions jump off the page and charged at Naruto. Just as they got close, a howl was heard from the smoke before a black, white and red blur shot out of the smoke and the ink constructs burst into puddles before a bipedal wolf-like creature with a white skull-like mask appeared in front of Sai before drawing its clawed hand back and swiping at Sai. Tenten, from her relaxed position next to Naruto, pulled out a scroll, unfurling it, launching a hail of kunai at Kiba, who was still screaming as Naruto's flaming chakra strings were still wrapped around his wrist, the kunais heading straight towards Kiba. Akamaru suddenly jumped out of Kiba's jumper and pulled his master downwards to the kunai flew over the top of him. "Damn it," muttered Tenten. The girl pulled out another scroll, unfurling it just enough to reveal a single seal on it, pumping chakra into the seal. A poof was heard and smoke cloaked Tenten's hands, hiding the new weapon Tenten had. The smoke, however, cleared rather quickly, revealing a Kusurigama. Spinning the weighted end, Tenten threw the weight at Kiba, who Akamaru had freed from Naruto's chakra strings. The weight wrapped around Kiba's unburnt wrist. "Oh, come on," whined Kiba before he was yanked forwards by Tenten, who pulled on the chain, making Kiba fall forwards. Akamaru, seeing his master in danger, ran forwards at Tenten, attempting to bite her ankles, only for a set of chakra strings to come out of nowhere and wrap around the puppy's feet, making him fall forwards. Naruto flipped through one-handed hand signs. "Haten Gakakyu no Jutsu, Fire-style Fireball Jutsu," called Naruto, launching a fireball at Sai, who was still dodging Naruto's summon. The wolf jumped out of the way as a fireball flew at Sai. The pale-skinned artist jumped out of the way of the fireball, only to have to pull out his Tanto as Naruto appeared in front of him with Iga in hand. Sai, with Tanto in hand, had to jump back as a shadow stick figure rose out of Naruto's shadow and lunged forwards with his shadow claws. Sai pulled out a kunai held in his free hand in a backhanded grip, ready to defend from attack. However, Sai was unprepared for Naruto's chakra strings to wrap around his wrist, yanking the pale boy forwards when Naruto leapt forwards, kicking Sai in the face with both feet, knocking Sai backwards while Naruto landed in a handstand. Naruto was, however, far from done with Sai. With the same chakra strings, Naruto yanked Sai towards him once more. However, this time Naruto delivered a split kick to the face, knocking Sai backwards again straight into the claws of Naruto's creature of grim summon. The claws of the creature sinking into Sai's skin, making him scream out in pain before falling to the ground as the summoned creature vanished. Sai landed in a crouch. He pushed himself up to his knee, only to see Akamaru fly past his face. Tenten winced as the white-furred dog flew through the air. She didn't really want to hurt the animal, but there was no other way to get the creature away from Kiba, who was on the ground in front of her. Having kicked the boy's dog away from him, Tenten felt compelled to knock Kiba out quickly. Tenten, unable to think of anything better, she stepped forwards before kicking Kiba in the head, making his head snap sideways, knocking the boy unconscious. Sai looked up at Naruto, who stood side on, Iga hanging limply at his side with a shadow figure front onto Sai. "Let the shadows bend to my Blackfoot and open a new path," declared Naruto, who spun on the spot before literal sinking into the ground, causing everyone around to look on in shock. No one could see Naruto. Sai looked around frantically for the blonde. No one noticed the shadow behind Sai begin to change and ripple before slowly and silently Naruto arose from Sai's shadow. The only people able to see it, the Jonin on the ground floor and Tenten. However, none of them would reveal to Sai where Naruto was. As Naruto rose from the shadow, he pulled out his unnamed sword. "Sai's," came the voice of Ino from the upper levels, but it was already too late. Naruto stabbed his sword through Sai's chest in such a way that it missed all vital organs, but the pain caused the shinobi to fall down unconscious with a sword sticking out of his back. Naruto pulled the blade out, wiping the blood off the blade before sheathing it. "Winners, cough cough, Naruto, Uzumaki and Tenten, cough cough cough, Igarashi," said Hade, appearing on the battlefield as the medics came out and began to cart Kiba, Sai and Akamaru away. "Next match will cough 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 cough," bespoke Hade, looking up to the screen as the names once more cycled through. "Nice match, you two," declared Kalina as Tenten and Naruto walked past her. The two nodded at her. "Kalina Jigoku, Mikari, cough cough cough, Kurekage versus Sakura Haruno and cough cough Ino Yamanaka," called Hade. "Beat them into the ground, you two," said Naruto as Kalina and Mikari walked away from him. They nodded. "Watch me, Sasu-kun," came the screechy voice of Sakura, making Naruto cover his ears. "No, watch me, Sasu-kun," squealed Ino before turning to glare at Sakura as the two of them stood opposite Kalina and Mikari, who were sending sideways glances to each other with their hands resting in their hands. "If both parties are cough 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 ready, then begin," called Hade, jumping away. I'm going to end these two pathetic Kunoichi in one punch, each, declared Sakura, running forwards at Mikari, with her fist cocked back, throwing her fist forwards, only for a cloud of smoke to engulf Mikari and her to be replaced with Kalina, who caught the fist with her left hand. "Well, Sakura, I hope you liked your Kunoichi career while it lasted," said Kalina. "What the hell is that SIG?" began Sakura, only for her to begin screaming as Kalina slammed her right hand into the captured arm's elbow, forcing it to bend in unnatural ways before a loud crunch was heard. However, before Sakura could begin bitching, Kalina grabbed both sides of her head before slamming the pink-haired Kunoichi's head into her knee. A great crunch sound was heard. Sakura began screaming louder. Kalina brought Sakura's head back up, holding her up before jumping up and slamming her foot into Sakura's knee, snapping it backwards in unnatural ways, while simultaneously making Sakura fall to her ass, but still sitting upright screaming in pain. Kalina spun around on the spot before once more slamming her foot into Sakura's face, knocking her backward, her head slamming into the ground, and a crack was heard. "That's for insulting Mikari-chan," declared Kalina, kicking the down Sakura's head to the side. "And that's for embarrassing Kunoichi everywhere, you stupid bitch of a fangirl," spoke Kalina, turning around and taking a deep breath, calming herself down. Ino by this point was shaking in her boots. Mikari rolled her eyes and pulled out her bow, and a particular arrow which she pulled back and quickly fired. The arrowhead pierced Ino's shoulder before the seal engraved on the end went off, releasing a burst of Rantan chakra. The arrow, designed by Kalina and made by Naruto, designed to stop a person dead in their tracks. Paralysis caused by the Rantan chakra. Ino spasmed before falling to the ground unconscious. "Winners, cough cough cough, Mikari Kureikage and cough 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 cough, Kalina Jigoku," declared Hade. Kalina walked over to Mikari and pulled her into a tight hug. Mikari returned the hug, Kalina taking a deep breath of Mikari's scent before the two separated and they walked back towards the stairs. "That might have been a bit overkill there, Kalina," declared Anko, looking down at her student. "I know, but Sakura was just pushing all of my buttons," said Kalina. "Everyone has their bad days, Kalina-chan," declared Mikari, hugging her girlfriend. "Hey, you two, how would you like the honor of helping me rebuild the Uchiha clan?" said Sasuke, walking over to Team 6. "Go fuck yourself, Uchiha," declared Kalina, glaring at Sasuke, who stepped closer to the girl. "Don't be like that, Kalina-chan, you know you'd love to help me," said Sasuke, reaching out to grab her face. "I said fuck off, Uchiha," declared Kalina, still glaring at Sasuke. "You should be fucking thankful to me, you fucking slut. I am the best man you could ever get," declared Sasuke. At this point, Anko was holding Naruto back from lopping Sasuke's head off. "I don't want you, let alone any man. You are not even close to my type. Even if I wanted a man, you'd be my last fucking choice," stated Kalina. Mikari holding her back from decking the Uchiha. "One night and I'll make you straight," said Sasuke with a smug tone. At that moment, Anko simply let go of Naruto, who charged forwards and kneed Sasuke in the nuts, making him drop to the ground, clutching his happy sacks. "Talk like that again to anyone, Sasuke, let alone my friends, and I will snap you fucking neck," declared Naruto. "Next match, cough cough cough, Misumi Tsurugi of cough 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 Konoha vs Kankuro of cough Suna," declared Hate, distracting Naruto from murdering Sasuke. 477. Chapter 27. Chunin exams by I don't own Naruto. "Winner, cough cough cough, Kankuro," declared Hade as Kankuro walked back up the stairs to his team. Naruto narrowed his eyes at the Suna team. He wasn't sure why, but they felt off to him. "What is it, Naru-kun?" asked Anko, looking at her boyfriend student. "I'm not sure," said Naruto, turning back to Anko before turning back to the arena. "The next match is cough 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 Tamari of Suna and Shino Aburam versus Kin cough 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 Tsuchi and Zaku Abumi," called Hade. Naruto watched as the last member of the Suna team and the female of the Ado team walk down the stairs, followed by Shino and the male Ado genin with both of his arms in slings. The two Ado nin stood opposite Shino and Tamari, all four of the ninja glaring at their opponents. "If all participants are cough 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 ready, then begin," said Hade, jumping back. The four ninjas stood still, glaring each other down. Kin made the first move, flicking Senbin at Tamari, who pulled the fan off her back and blocking the small metal needles with the fan. While this was going on, Zaku pulled one arm out of the slings and pointing it at Shino. "Zankia, decapitating airwaves," called Zaku, launching an airwave at Shino, who jumped to the side, avoiding the attack. Shino then sent out a swarm of bugs towards the Ado genin. "Zankia, decapitating airwaves," called Zaku, again launching a wave of air towards Shino's bugs, only for the wave to hit and the bugs to curve around it. In once again threw Senbin at Tamari, who again used her closed fan to block them. "Gyuten Kazakiri no Jutsu, wind-style wind cutter jutsu," said Tamari, flicking her fan, sending out a wave of wind that flew forwards and slammed into Kin, launching her back into the wall behind her. Kin hit the wall with a crunch before dropping to the floor in her knees. Kin looked at the smirking Tamari with a glare. "Meijin Jubaku Satsu, demonic illusion tree binding death," declared Kin before vanishing in a swirl. Tamari looked on as she became paralyzed as a tree sprouted out of the ground behind her and wrapped limbs around her. Tamari was shocked, looking around, trying to find Kin. She, however, couldn't find the black-haired Kunoichi. That is until the black-haired Auto-Genin phased out of the tree above Tamari with a kunai in hand. However, before Kin could do anything, Tamari felt a nip on the side of her neck and her reality flickered before revealing Kin standing above her with a kunai in hand ready to strike. Tamari using her closed fan as a club smacked Kin back before jumping away from her. Tamari looked at her neck where she felt the nip and saw a bug. Looking over to Shino, he gave her the slightest nod. She nodded back at him, silently thanking him for freeing her from the Jinjutsu. Gyuden Repshim, wind-style gale palm, called Zaku, forcing a wall of wind forwards, pushing Shino's bugs back. Shino called all of his bugs back to him. Heitan Gakakyu no Jutsu, fire-style fireball jutsu, called Shino, shooting a fireball towards Zaku. The fireball absorbed the wind from Zaku's jutsu and powered up the fire. Zaku disappeared in a Kawarimi substitution. Zankia, decapitating airwaves, called Zaku from behind Shino. A wave of air slammed into Shino. However, instead of being thrown backwards, the boy burst into a swarm of bugs. Zaku was thrown into a wall, Shino kicking him in the face. Zaku jumped to the side as a swarm of bugs flew at him. Shino pulled out a kunai with a tag attached to the ring on the end before he threw it at Zaku, who just managed to dodge the weapon, only for the tag to catch fire before exploding, launching Zaku forwards into Shino's foot. Shino kicked Zaku in the head before his bugs swarmed out of his sleeves and began sucking up Zaku's chakra. Tamari and Kin stood opposite each other. Tamari glared at the black-haired girl before unfurling her fan. Gyuden Kazakiri no Jutsu, wind-style wind cutter jutsu, called Tamari, launching a blade of wind at Kin, who jumped out of the way only for Tamari to appear next to her with a folded-up fan in her hands. Again using her fan like a club, Tamari slammed her fan into Kin's face, launching her backwards into a wall, making the wall crack like a spiderweb. Kin pushed herself up onto wobbly legs. Barely looking conscious, Kin flipped through a set of hand signs in a last-ditch attempt to stop Tamari. Suiton no Jutsu, water-style water bomb jutsu, called Kin, breathing out a stream of water towards Tamari, who jumped to the side avoiding the stream. Tamari was about to charge at Kin until the girl fell forwards unconscious. Winners cough 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 cough. Tamari of Suna and Shino cough cough cough. Abiram, declared Hate, once more appearing on the arena floor. With that said, the teams of medics ran out onto the field and collected the unconscious bodies of the two auto shinobi. Well, that was interesting, muttered Naruto looking down at the now empty battlefield. Yeah, those two made a surprisingly good team, said Anko leaning on Naruto. Alright, cough 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 cough. Next matches began. Hate looking up at the screen, waiting for the names to appear. Shikamaru cough cough cough. Nara and Choji Akimichi versus cough 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 Dosu Kinta and Yoroi Akado, said Hate. The forementioned genin began moving from their positions with their teams and walked down to the arena. Are both parties ready to cough 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 begin? Asked Hate, getting a nod from the auto genin. Troublesome, yes, muttered Shikamaru. Yes, declared Choji. Yes, Proctor-sen, said Yoroi. Then cough begin, called Hate. Aika no Jutsu, expansion jutsu, Nikiden Sensha, human boulder, called Choji in quick succession, expanding to the size of a boulder before rolling straight at the two opposing genin. Hajime no Jutsu, shadow possession jutsu, called Shikamaru, his shadow stretching out to the opposing Konoha genin, who jumped out of the way of the shadow tendril, only to get slammed into a wall, courtesy of Choji's human boulder form. Choji came back from the wall, letting the genin fall from the spiderweb crack in the wall on the floor. Shikamaru dropped his jutsu before forming the signs for another. The Jizukami no Jutsu, shadow grasping jutsu, called Shikamaru as his shadow connected with Choji's, and the Nara air used the shadow to guide Choji in his human boulder form over to Dosu, who was charging at Shikamaru. In an attempt to knock him out, the auto genin jumped out of the way of the boulder. Shikamaru, however, kept following the boy, but he kept jumping back, avoiding the attack. Shikamaru then noticed Yoroi was once again standing, on shaky legs but standing nonetheless, and so Shikamaru directed Choji over towards the shaky genin, who could do nothing to avoid the attack, and once again was hit dead on by the boulder. However, this time he was launched backwards towards the entrance of the arena. Once he landed, he just lay there. That left only Dosu, who was sweating now. The combination the two of them were using was far from perfect, but in such an enclosed space it was difficult to avoid. The auto genin then had to jump away as Choji came rolling back at him. Once again figuring the weak link in the attack was Shikamaru, he jumped over the boulder that is Choji and ran at Shikamaru, who began reeling in Choji. However, Dosu was just fast enough to keep ahead, so Shikamaru had to do something. Taking the smarter of the two options, Shikamaru let go of the jutsu, letting Choji roll free towards Dosu, and he jumped away from the two incoming ninja. Dosu followed Shikamaru's let and jumped out of the way of Choji. However, he continued after Shikamaru. Choji slammed into a wall before reversing out of the wall and once more following after the two ninja. Shikamaru running from the auto genin pulled out a kunai, jumping up. Shikamaru touring around midair, threw his kunai at Dosu, who jumped to the side avoiding the kunai. Shikamaru landed on the ground and began running again, trying to come up with a strategy to beat Dosu. The auto genin got within attacking range and throwing his gauntleted arm forwards at Shikamaru, who just before Dosu hit him Shikamaru Kawarimi-ed with a nearby log, leaving Dosu to shatter the log and continue to run from Choji, who was slowly but surely gaining on the bandaged auto genin. The mummified genin once more followed Shikamaru's lead and Kawarimi-ed with a log, this one being rolled over by Choji. Hajime no Jutsu, Shadow Possession Jutsu, called Shikamaru his shadow reaching out and attaching to Dosu's, making the boy stop dead in his tracks. Choji then began rolling back over towards him. Dosu's eyes went wide. "No, I can't lose, Orochimaru-sama will kill me," thought Dosu frantically as Choji drew closer and closer. When the boulder was within meters of the bandaged genin he closed his eyes accepting his fate. Less than a minute later Dosu felt Shikamaru release his shadow technique, but it was too late. Choji slammed into the mummified genin full force, launching him backwards 30 feet and up about 5. The bandaged genin slammed back first into the wall just below the screen with the names. Dosu felt the wall buckle slightly at the tremendous amount of force behind the attack, but that was it as he had blacked out. The auto genin's body impacted the wall creating spider web cracks around it. After a second Dosu's unconscious body fell forwards out of the wall and down on the ground where Guy appeared and caught the genin. "Winners cough 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 Shikamaru Nara and Choji cough 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 Akimichi," declared Hade appearing back on the as the teams of nurses came scurrying out to collect Dosu and Yoroi. "Should have seen that coming, those two have amazing teamwork," said Naruto. "Yeah, those two have always been great working together," spoke Kalina. "Well, they have essentially been attached at the hip since before the academy, right?" questioned Mikari looking at her teammates. "Good job you two," said Naruto as the two genin walked past them. "Thanks Naruto," said Choji with a smile. "Troublesome, thanks Naruto," said Shikamaru with his trademarked lazy attitude before the two ninja continued back to their teams. "The next and cough 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 final match will be cough cough cough," coughed Hei trailing off as he waited for the names to flick across the screen, despite the fact the genin already knew who it was. Hinata was looking nervously over at her older cousin who was glaring back at her. Niji's Byakugan flared to life as he glared at Hinata with a sadistic smirk on his face. "Hinata cough 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 Hyuga and Niji cough 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 Hyuga," declared Hei before the two Hyuga made their way down, one confidently the other very nervously. "You should give up Hinata, I have been fated to win this match," declared Niji glaring at Hinata. I won't back down Niji Nayasama," said Hinata confidently. "Why bother, you are fated to lose to me here," Toda began Niji only to be interrupted by a voice from the second floor. "Oh, I fate's bitch, she told you she wouldn't back down, so shut it," yelled Naruto, making Niji look up at him and glare. "You watch your mouth, freak," said Niji. The whole room became dead silent as Naruto narrowed his eyes at Niji. "What did you call me?" questioned Naruto. "Freak," declared Niji only to drop to the ground as Naruto directed all of his Kai at the arrogant Hyuga. "You better pray to your fate that Hinata beats you, because I swear if I meet you in the finals, I will crush you," declared Naruto. "If both combatants are cough 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 ready, then begin," said Hade. Chapter 28. Chunin exams by I don't own Naruto. "Winner Niji cough 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 Hyuga," coughed Hade. "Could all of cough cough the winners please come back cough down here," requested Hade. The 12 genin winners walked down the stairs and walked to the center of the arena floor. "Congratulations on winning, you cough 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 12 will move on to the third cough cough round of the exams," said Hade. "When I come around, take out a number, these will be used to decide matchups for the third round," said Zabuza walking along the line of genin, each one pulling out a piece of paper with a number on it. "Alright brats, when I point at ya I want your number," declared Zabuza before pointing first at "I have 8, said Choji. Zabuza nodded before writing something down on the clipboard in his hands. "Troublesome 10, muttered Shikamaru. "Three's what I got," Tamari spoke. "I got 4, declared Tenten. "9 for me," said Mikari. 11, spoke Kankuro. "I have 1, muttered Naruto. 6, growled Gaara. "I have 5, said Sasuke. "I got 7, spoke Kalina. 2, declared Niji. 12, muttered Shino. "Alright thanks," said Zabuza looking down at the paper. "The matchups will be as follows: Naruto vs Niji, Tamari vs Tenten, Sasuke vs Gaara, Kalina vs Choji, Mikari vs Shikamaru and finally Kankuro vs Shino," declared Zabuza. "Alright, we wish you all luck, you will each have a month to prepare for the finals," said Hiruzen with a smile before standing up. "A month? Why not have the finals right now?" asked Choji. "There's going to be lots of important figures here, daimyos, foreign cage, business leaders, people that will take time to get here, and the month will give us all time to rest and recuperate," said Naruto. "Well," said Naruto. "Yes, as Naruto said Choji, we have to wait for foreign dignitaries and such to arrive," said Hiruzen with a smile to the tubby boy. "You are all dismissed," said Hiruzen before he shunshined out of the room, as did most of the jonin, the sensei telling their teams to meet them in various places. "The light, you 3, see you in training ground 6 tomorrow usual time," said Anko before she vanished in a swirl of leaves after getting a nod from her genin. "See you 2 later," said Naruto as he too vanished in a swirl. His however was that of electricity. Outside the Konoha hospital, Naruto appeared in a swirl of static. He wanted to make sure Kiba and Hinata were okay after their matches, Hinata in particular, after the brutal beating Neji had laid on the girl. Walking into the hospital, Naruto walked straight past a girl at the front desk who was reading a magazine, knowing she would cause more trouble than it was worth. Besides, he could sense where in the building his classmates were. Naruto could sense that Hinata was still in surgery, not surprising he would have to come back to check on her. Heading to Kiba's room, Naruto sensed the genin was not alone. "Hey Kiba," Hana-chan said, Naruto walking into Kiba's room, making both Inuzuka's siblings turn to him. "Hey Naruto-kun, I haven't seen you in a while," said Hana with a smile. "Hey Blondie," said Kiba. "Look Kiba, I hope there's no hard feelings," spoke Naruto, nervously rubbing the back of his head. "Nah man, we're cool, it was a competition. Those string things are really cool though," said Kiba with a grin at Naruto. "Aren't they? It's part of these gloves I found in Yuzushio. I push chakra into the gloves and then chakra threads form from my fingertips. I've only just started reading into the Bukijutsu style with them, but it's really interesting," said Naruto with a grin which then turned to a sad smile. "How's Akamaru?" asked Naruto. "He'll be better before this knucklehead," said Hana, giving her little brother a noogie. Naruto just smiled at the brother and sister. "Wait, where's Tsum-san? I would have thought she would have been here," questioned Naruto looking around the room. "Apparently a councilwoman's daughter got the shit beaten out of her and won't be able to be a kunoichi ever again, and now the councilwoman is bitching, trying to get the person who did it to her executed," said Kiba. Naruto's eyes widened. "So you know who it was?" questioned Kiba. "Yeah, Sakura got the snot beaten out of her by Kalina," said Naruto calmly. "No way in hell anything could come of it, and besides, if anything did, Naruto had told Kalina and Mikari that if they ever got in trouble with the council to ask for him. Naruto Uzumaki, your presence is required in the council chambers," said an Anbu agent appearing behind the blonde. "Alright, I'll be right there," said Naruto, nodding to the Anbu, who then vanished in a swirl of leaves. "Well, I hope you get better soon Kiba, and I hope to see you again soon, Hana," said Naruto turning around. "Well, you know where to find me Naruto," said Hana before Naruto vanished in a swirl of static. Council chambers. Naruto appeared in a swirl of static too, only to find Kalina standing in front of the council. The civilian side was glaring at Kalina, while the shinobi side was indifferent to the girl. "So what's going on?" asked Naruto looking around the room. The first thing he did notice was a severe lack of Sarutobi, but he let it slide in favor of finding out what they were trying to go at Kalina with. "My precious daughter is in the hospital in a critical condition and will never be a ninja again because of that little bitch," yelled a blonde-haired woman glaring at Kalina, not even looking at Naruto. "Stiff shit, it was a tournament to decide whether ninja were ready to be promoted. Your daughter, if she was that, what the hell do you mean?" snapped the woman, now glaring at Naruto. "Well, she doesn't have any skill, she shouldn't have even have made it past the academy, she can't even do more than 5 jutsu in succession. I know 6-year-olds who can do more than that, she has pathetic physical strength, she would be lucky to lift a table, let alone herself, plus her 2 teammates, as is the standard for kunoichi elsewhere in the world. Hell, she only wants to learn about history and other stuff that is useless on a battlefield," said Naruto. "She passed the academy, she was fit to be a ninja, and that heartless bitch nearly killed my poor Sakura-chan," declared the woman, pointing an accusing finger at Kalina. "Your precious Sakura-chan should never have passed the academy, she is pathetic. The only reason she did pass the academy was because of the low standards the academy has fallen to and has shifted focus from physical prowess of the ninja to the mental capabilities of them instead, which serves to actually weaken the ninja force by putting the average intelligence but perfectly trained kids at the disadvantage. Your daughter chose to take part in the exams, she knew the risks. There is nothing that you can do to change that, nor is there anything you can do to have Kalina executed. She is a clan heiress 10 times more important than that banshee of a fangirl. And ignoring that, Kalina did nothing wrong, it was a tournament to establish those ready to advance rank. We were given orders to disable opponents by any means necessary. Sakura should have thrown in the towel when she was having her ass handed to her, but she didn't. She sat there screaming, a real ninja can keep fighting with a broken bone and not even flinch. Nothing happened against the rules provided to us," said Naruto. "Well said Naruto, couldn't have said it better myself," said a voice from behind everyone as the doors to the room opened, revealing the previously missing Hiruzen. "And I seem to recall only the Hokage could call council meetings," said Hiruzen, glaring at the civilian council. "But Hokage-sama, if this girl attacked a fellow ninja with such ferocity, surely she is a risk to anyone she works with," declared the blonde woman, clearly a last-ditched attempt to get her executed. "No, she treats her fellow ninja with respect befitting their rank, however she, like most other kunoichi, don't class fangirls as fellow kunoichi, therefore are not treated with respect that they do not deserve," declared Naruto, getting a nod from Kalina. "Enough," declared Hiruzen. "Councilwoman Haruno, you can keep your slanderous remarks to yourself. Your request for punishment against Kalina Jigoku is denied, dismissed," yelled Hiruzen, making the civilians jump and run out of the room. The ninja just stood up and walked out of the room. "See you tomorrow Kalina," said Naruto, vanishing in a swirl of static. Next day training ground 6. Naruto stood with Mikari and Kalina. In front of them stood Anko, who was eating some dango. So all three of you made it to the finals, and we have a month until they roll around. I can train all of you, but I wouldn't recommend it as you may end up fighting each other, and it may be an idea to have some new tricks up your sleeves, so do any of you want me to train you? Asked Anko. I have been meaning to work on my clan jutsu for a while, and Kachan said she'd teach me the next level of Oni Seijin jutsu soon, so I'll pass sensei, said Kalina. Anko nodded and turned to her second female student. Kachan said she'd teach me some new tricks with my bow and a few handy jutsu, so I'm gonna pass on it too sensei, declared Mikari. Once more getting a nod from Anko before she turned to her boyfriend with a small smile. Well, Kachan offered to teach me some stuff for the month, but I would like to spend some time with you, so maybe you and Kachan could both train me? Suggested Naruto, getting a shrug from Anko. Alright, we'll see you guys at the finals. There won't be any team meetings during this month, so you can concentrate on your training, said Anko, getting a nod from her team. Naruto and Anko both vanished in a swirl of static and leaves respectively. Uzumaki compound. Naruto and Anko appeared in their respective shunshuns. "Ah-chan, I'm home," called Naruto as he walked into the house. "Oh, Naru-chan, you're back soon," said Kushina walking out of the kitchen. "Oh, who's this?" asked Kushina pointing to Anko. "This is Anko-chan," declared Naruto. "Oh, so this is Anko," said Kushina, looking the woman over for a moment. Anko felt a little bit awkward and exposed at the mother of her student and boyfriend. After a moment Kushina smiled at Anko. "Nice to meet you, Anko-chan," spoke Kushina with a soft smile. "The pleasure is mine, Kushina-sama," declared Anko with a slight bow to the woman. No, that won't do, Anko-chan, you don't refer to me as Kushina-sama, just Kushina or Kushina-chan works," said Kushina with a smile. Anko just let out the breath she didn't realize she was holding. "So Anko-chan, what can we do for you?" asked Kushina with a smile. "Well, as Naruto is my student and he has made it to the final round of the Chunin exams, he needs some extra training. He has said that you said you would train him for the month, but has also expressed interest in having me train him as well, so I have come over to discuss his training, and if it is agreed upon both of us training him, then to also to come up with a training schedule," declared Anko. Chapter 29. Chunin exams v. I don't own Naruto. Naruto stood in his clan compound. It had been 2 days since the preliminaries, so Naruto was now working with his new training schedule. The day had just begun, and as such Naruto was training with Razor and Laswara in their collaboration techniques. Well, when he summoned them, Naruto sliced his finger on his tooth before sliding the bloodied thumb down his tattooed arm before slamming his hand into the ground, causing a cloud of smoke to appear. Once it cleared, Naruto saw Laswara looking down at a groaning and wailing Razor. Laswara looked up when she realized she was in a different place. "Naruto, thank the gods," said Laswara looking at Naruto. "What's wrong with Razor?" asked Naruto looking down at the razorback cub writhing on the ground. "I don't know, that's the problem," said Laswara looking from Naruto to her young cub. "I can take him to someone that may be able to help," suggested Naruto, making Laswara look up at him. Anything to help Razor," said the mother razorback. Naruto nodded and gently picked up the young cub and calmly walked out of the training ground, quickly forming a clone to tell Kushina what he was doing. Naruto walked out of the compound with Laswara following closely behind. The razorback saw the looks her summoner got as they walked through the village, but knowing Naruto and being too concerned for Razor, Laswara ignored them. Walking up to the gates of the Inyazuka compound, Naruto walked straight between them and into the compound. Laswara followed, but got a little nervous seeing all of the canines around the compound, but ignored them in favor of following Naruto as he walked into a seemingly random building in the compound. The building they walked into was the vet's office. No one else apparently had a sick animal as the waiting room was clear. Naruto was about to walk up to the counter when Hana came out of a room. "Naruto-kun, hey," said the girl, getting Naruto's attention. "Hey Hana," said Naruto looking at the girl. "Looks like you have problem with one of your summons again," stated Hana. "Yeah, he's sick, we don't know with what," said Naruto. "Well, come with me, we'll check him out," declared Hana, walking away, giving Naruto the follow gesture, and follow Naruto did. The two walked out of the waiting room and into Hana's office. "Put him on the examination table, Naruto-kun," spoke Hana, pointing to the metal table in the middle of the room. Naruto nodded and put the young razorback on the table. Hana walked over to the groaning creature. Her hands began to glow with a green glow. Hana ran her hands along the creature, slowly trying to find the source of his discomfort. Stopping over the young animal's stomach, Hana's eyes narrowed. "You're lucky you brought him here, Naruto. He has a laceration on the inside of his stomach. He also appears to have worms," declared Hana, making both Naruto and Laswara's eyes widen. "I can heal the cut, but the worms he's going to have to take medicine to get rid of," said Hana, getting a nod from Naruto and Laswara. "How many times a day?" asked Naruto looking down at the little razorback. "For the worming he will need to take medicine twice a day," said Hana, getting a nod from Naruto. Also I would like to keep him here for a while to make sure nothing happens to him, said Hana. Naruto turned to Laswara getting a nod from the creature. Naruto turned back to Hana nodding. Thanks Hana-chan, you're a lifesaver, said Naruto. Hey, I'm just doing my job, declared Hana with a smile. Thank you anyway Hana-chan, said Naruto with a smile hugging the girl. Hana returned the hug. Go on, get out of here, you have training to do, said Hana with a playful grin pushing Naruto away from herself. Yep, see ya Hana-chan, I'm leaving Razor and Laswara in your hands, said Naruto walking out of the room, Hana nodding as he left. After walking out of the vet's office Naruto began his walk home. He ignored the glares shot his way as per usual. If being friends with Anko had taught him anything it was ignore the glares or grin back at the bastards. "Ha-chan, I'm home," called Naruto as he walked in the front door only to get no response. "Ha-chan?" questioned Naruto looking around for his mother. Walking up to her room, Naruto heard movement from inside. "Ha-chan, I'm Bob," began Naruto stopping dead in his tracks as he caught sight of Kushina. Naruto Sharingan subconsciously flared engraving the image of his fully naked mother into his mind. Her long luscious legs, her full perky breasts, her toned stomach, her beautiful face stained with a blush, and finally her pink lower lips, topped with a small patch of red pubic hair. "I'm so sorry Ka-chan," said Naruto turning around and running out of the room. Kushina stood there for a moment all thought lost having for a second time been walked in on by her son. "Did he get a boner because of me?" questioned Kushina to herself having sworn she saw his pants tent up before he left. Kushina's already red face went even redder at the thought before she quickly put clothes on. Naruto meanwhile was down the hall leaning on a wall breathing hard. "My Kami, she's so beautiful, those plump full tits and that beautiful puss, no bad Naruto, that's your mother," thought Naruto to himself. "I pray to Kami she find someone soon or I might not be able to control myself," thought Naruto taking a deep breath before walking away from there. He needed to clear his head and with that he ran outside and created an army of shadow clones. Several hours later, Naruto stood in the destroyed training grounds, ready to create an army of shadow clones to fight his way through having just defeated the last lot, despite the fact the training grounds looked like a cyclone had gone through them. "Hey Naruto-kun," called a voice from the entrance to the training ground. "Anko-chan, hey," said Naruto walking over to her with a smile on his face. The two met halfway and pulled the other into a hug that ended with a kiss. "So are you ready for training?" asked Anko getting a nod from Naruto. "Yeah, just let me go tell Ka-chan," said Naruto walking away from the purple-haired woman who smiled. Naruto walked into the house to find Kushina reading a newspaper with a frown on her face. "Okay Ka-chan, Anko-sensei is here, I'm off," said Naruto. "Sure Naruto, see you later," said Kushina, her frown not disappearing. Naruto was about to ask about the frown, but figured that it was something in the paper so left it at that and walked out of the house. What Naruto didn't know was Kushina had been watching Naruto when Anko had arrived and was frowning at her own feelings. "What is wrong with me? I've never felt like this before. Is it because he was with Anko? Am I jealous?" questioned Kushina to herself while not even really looking at the paper. With Naruto and Anko, the two ninja walked down the streets going to a public training ground. "So Naruto-kun, what happened to that training ground? It looks pretty destroyed," said Anko. "I was testing out a new jutsu, it worked pretty well, but as you saw lots of collateral damage," declared Naruto. "Oh, are you going to tell me more about this jutsu?" asked Anko. "Sorry An-chan, you like the rest of the village will have to wait and see, it's my ace in the hole," said Naruto with a smirk, getting a pout from Anko. "Oh, you're mean Naruto-kun," said Anko trying to get Naruto to cave and tell her about it only for the blonde to look away from her. "So what are we going to do today Anko-sensei?" asked Naruto. "You're no fun Naruto-kun, sigh. Well, I was planning on teaching you a new Kaiten jutsu," said Anko getting a nod from Naruto. Several hours later, Naruto stood alone in a semi-dark training ground. The sun had gone down, but there was some light from the embers left behind by Naruto's jutsu. Anko had left half an hour ago having some other things to do. Naruto took a deep breath and breathed out the smoke left from the Kaiten jutsu. Turning around, Naruto walked out of the training ground. Walking back towards his clan compound, Naruto caught a scent in the air. It was a sweet scent, but there was something else about it he couldn't put his finger on. So deciding to investigate, Naruto followed the smell which led the blonde to a forest relatively close to the clan districts, making Naruto raise his eyebrow to it. Walking through the trees, Naruto could smell the scent getting stronger and stronger, meaning he was getting closer to whatever was causing it. "Hana-chan?" questioned Naruto walking into a clearing to see the girl sitting against a tree sweating and panting. "Then Naruto-kun pant, hey," stuttered Hana. "What's wrong Hana-chan, you look," began Naruto only for Hana to interrupt him. "I'm in heat," said the girl somewhat irritated. Naruto's eyes went wide. "You and I both know you've been around the Inuzuka long enough to know what that means Naruto-kun," declared Hana standing up. "We fight, I win, you become my mate, you win, I die," said Naruto getting a nod from Hana. "I'm sorry Hana, but I don't plan to die here today," said Naruto with a chakra pulse to his back, making his two swords appear on his back in a plume of smoke. "Well then beat me," yelled Hana before her normally peaceful and placid expression turned feral and she dropped to the ground. Naruto pulled Iga off his back in his left hand while chakra strings formed on his right hand, and before he could even blink, Hana was rushing him. Hana threw herself clawed fingernails first at him. As quickly as his muscles would move, his blade was in front of him just in time to block the claw strike. Naruto flicked his right hand out to the side before bringing it back and wrapping the chakra threads around Hana's leg. He quickly pulled the limb out from under her, making the girl stumble, and seizing the momentary lapse of bestial instincts, Naruto punched his friend in the face, knocking her back, and at the same time the blonde jumped backwards. Itsuga Tenshin, Moon Fang Heaven Piercer, called Naruto, launching a red and black shockwave towards Hana, who rolled to the side with a snarl before she charged forwards at Naruto on all fours, stabbing Iga into the ground. Naruto kicked the charging girl in the chin, launching her up into the air, followed by a second kick from his other foot, a spin kick launching Hana sideways. Naruto, using his momentum, spun around, snatching his blade out of the ground. "Ska, passing Fang," snarled the ethereal voice of Hana as she threw herself into a tornado at Naruto, who was still airborne at the time. However, as Hana drew closer, a shadow stickman launched out of Naruto's shadow, which Hana's attack collided with, grinding against the shadow, and just as Naruto landed, Hana pushed through the shadow at Naruto, drilling against the boy, who was flung backwards into a tree by the attack. When Naruto's back hit the tree, a sickening crunch sound was heard and he fell to the ground on his ass as Hana once more charged at him, her clawed fingernails ready to rip him to pieces. However, just as Hana was about to attack Naruto, he slammed his hand into her forehead, making a Fuinjutsu matrix spread out from her forehead, and like that suddenly Hana lost her feral appearance and fell down, her head coming to rest in Naruto's lap. "Of all the people to find me in heat, I'm glad it was you, Naruto-kun," muttered Hana before she blacked out. Naruto was about to stand up before his head began to spin and he fell down unconscious. Chapter 30. Chunin Exams X. I don't own Naruto. Naruto awoke to a feeling of weight on his chest. Opening his eyes, Naruto saw the sun was up. The light of the morning sun forced him to close his eyes. Opening his eyes, the blonde Uchiha looked down to see Hana asleep, cuddled up to his chest. Naruto's face contorted in confusion as he racked high brain for the answer. "Of all the people to find me while I'm in heat, I'm glad it was you, Naruto-kun." The last words that Hana said before Naruto passed out came to the forefront of his mind. "We're mates," muttered Naruto, looking down at the girl who was smiling in her sleep. He smiled down at her and wrapped his arms around her. His actions woke her. Hana's eyes fluttered open and she looked up at him. "Morning, Naruto-kun," said Hana before yawning cutely. "Morning, Hana-chan," said Naruto with a smile before he leant down and planted a soft kiss on the girl's nose, making her giggle. "Come on, Naruto-kun, we need to tell Ka-chan," declared Hana, standing up. Naruto nodded before he too stood up, leaning on the tree he had been leaning against as his head began to spin a bit. "You okay, Naruto-kun?" asked Hana, concerned. "Yeah, head spinning is all," said Naruto, shaking a bit before he pushed off the tree and began walking over to Hana. "I'm going to send a clone to talk with my mother, tell her why I wasn't home last night, and one to Anko to tell her what happened," said Naruto, getting a nod from Hana. "Page Bunshin no Jutsu, Shadow Clone Jutsu," called Naruto, forming two clones who both already knowing their orders, and with that the two of them vanished. Naruto then turned to Hana. "Alright, let's go and see your mother," said Naruto, getting a nod from Hana as the two began walking out of the clearing. But the Anko clone. The clone looking for Anko found the woman at the typical place for her around this time, her dango shop. "Hey there, Naruto-kun," purred Anko, seeing her blonde boyfriend drop down in front of her. "Hey Anko-chan, before anything else, I am a clone," said the clone, making Anko raise an eyebrow at him. "Okay, so why is Naruto-kun sending a clone?" asked Anko. "Last night after training, Naruto found Hana in heat," said the clone. "Even you're here, that means he won, so he and her are mates now, right?" questioned Anko, getting a nod from the clone. "I knew I would have to share him eventually, but I thought I'd have him to myself for a little bit longer," muttered Anko, looking down before looking back to the clone. "Tell him I want to see him at the usual time at the training ground with Hana," said Anko, getting a nod from the clone, who after hearing Anko's words just vanished in a plume of smoke. But the Kushina clone. The clone walked into the Uzumaki clan compound. He knew he was going to more than likely be in trouble for not coming home, but he was a clone, so he didn't care, walking down the streets of the compound. "Ah-chan," called Naruto, walking into the house. "Naruto Uzumaki Uchiha," called the angry voice of Kushina. "Ah-chan, don't hurt me, I'm a clone," said the clone, holding up his hands as Kushina stepped closer to him. She narrowed her eyes at the clone of her son. "You have 3 seconds to explain why you weren't home last night, or I will pop you and then find the real you and beat you to a bloody pulp," declared Kushina, glaring at her son's clone. "Last night I was out training late. On my way home I found my friend Hana Inuzuka alone in a clearing and she was in heat," declared Naruto. "And that stops you from coming home, how?" asked Kushina. "In Inuzuka tradition, if any male finds a female Inuzuka in heat, they fight. The male wins, the female becomes his mate. The female wins, the male dies. I won used too much chakra and wound up unconscious under a tree, only waking up about 20 minutes ago at most," declared the clone. "So now this Hana is your mate?" Questioned Kushina, her eyes narrowing at Naruto's clone, only to get a nod from the boy. Kushina just sighed. Just bring her around here sometime today, I want to meet her, declared Kushina, getting a nod from the clone before he vanished in a plume of smoke. What if Naruto has a white Sharingan part 2? Thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel and leave a like if you guys need the next part, comment down, and thanks for watching the video and see you guys in the next video.